5 p.m. A quorum is present, and the meeting has been duly called and posted in the time and manner required by law. We have had several cards turned in for public comments. Before we proceed, I want to mention that we have scheduled time in September to upgrade our sound equipment. But for now, we do occasionally experience technical difficulties with our mics and sound system. We have added an additional speaker in the back to assist the audience with hearing participants. So, just so you know. Okay. It's our sound system. Can y'all turn it up just a little bit? And then we have another mic back there. Okay. Okay, very good. Okay, I will now review the provisions in board policy governing the procedures for public participation as reflected in BED local. The audience shall not enter into discussion or debate on the matters being considered by the board. I will remind members of the board that the public participation section of our board meeting is for the purpose of listening to our patrons. No presentation shall exceed 3 minutes, and a timer will go off at the completion of 3 minutes. I would ask that you conclude your comments within the time limit allowed, and also you do not have to fill an entire 3-minute segment if that is not your choice. As I call your name, if you would come to the podium and state your name for the record, as well as the agenda item you would like to comment on. The first comment is Anna Brown. Anna Brown. Anna Brown. Okay, I'll set that to the side and we'll come back to it. Zamie Bonilla.
Yes.
Yes, they can. Zamie Bonilla. Okay, and I'll give them one more chance at the end. Deanne Clark.
My name is Deanne Clark. I have just had a root canal, so I'm going to be kind of mumbly here. I have had the privilege of working with Joni Rodella, and on some constitutional projects. I would be surprised if Misty Reber or Nancy Sharp would think in terms of pornography, which is what we are here today dealing with tonight. I would be very surprised from my relationship with them if that is what they are thinking. I think we are facing a situation of turning something very beautiful and meaningful into one of the low, vulgar, and demeaning acts. It leans on the animal side and sinks persons to objects of contempt. Definitions of low-life, gutter words, takes out the mystery and value and respect and makes the marital sex act common. I would direct LISD to that which is disciplined, building character, and self-respect. This will conflict with Bible-based curriculum. I hope you will consider removing these questionable books from our library. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Okay, Zamie Bonilla, we called that name before. Zamie Bonilla, come forward. Okay, Okay, we'll come back one more time. Nicholas Muniz. Oh, is she coming? Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Bonilla. I am a teacher, a fourth grade teacher here at Lubbock ISD. I'm also a parent to two students that attend here at Lubbock ISD. This whole book situation that we're living here in our district has actually hurt a little bit our way of teaching in the classroom. They are eliminating resources that were once accessible to us.
That's not for you. I'm sorry, just in recess.
And I am here also as a parent because I think we as parents have the right to decide what our kids wants to read, and not other parents decide what our kids should be reading, either at school or on their own. I do receive emails every week from the books that my kids check out at school. I don't think, honestly, as a parent, that is necessary. My kids have their own will to decide what they want to read, what are the topics that they want to read. They should be free to decide what are the topics that they want to read. I think I'm doing a good job as a parent, deciding what I want to teach and how I want to teach that to my kids. And also at school, I think we have really capable librarians that stand up for their position and do everything that is possible to have their libraries filled with books that can enrich the knowledge of our students here at LISD. Thank you.
Nicholas Muniz. Nicholas Muniz, if you'll come forward, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nicholas Muniz. I am a Lubbock native and a Lubbock High School alumnus and two-time graduate of Texas Tech University, where I have both a Bachelor of Arts in English Literature and Language and a Master's in Business Administration. So I'm speaking today regarding item 3, the Library Materials Appeal hearings, regarding the escalating attacks on public education, most recently highlighted by the local Turning Point USA chapter. I want to remind the school board and members of that organization in this room that the Lubbock Independent School District has long maintained high standards of decorum and educational excellence, equipping students with essential critical thinking skills. I was inspired to become an English major after graduating high school in 2010 because of the advanced curriculum I experienced during my junior and senior years. Whether engaging with the complex psychological depth of Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, the poignant poetry of Langston Hughes, the foundational mythology of the Odyssey, or the profound historical weight of Toni Morrison's Beloved, the depth and rigor of those materials were comparable to what I later encountered in my 3rd and 4th years of university. Experienced educators and degree holders know the value of this curriculum firsthand. I want to remind Turning Point USA that many within their ranks lack the academic background required to evaluate educational standards. LISD educators, many holding master's degrees and PhDs with decades of service, did not dedicate their lives to education only to have their expertise undermined. It is interesting, on a more personal note, it is interesting to me that individuals within this organization, and I've been watching some of the school board meetings in preparation for tonight's meeting, that individuals get up here on this mic. If I were them, me personally, I would want to escalate my platform as well. If I had 218 followers with my organization, or 17 followers on a YouTube interview that I did, or 4 Google reviews on Amazon, I would be upset too and want to increase my platform. But that being said, the school district standards should not be directed by individuals with no formal background in public education, and the school board established an advisory committee for a reason. That structure is vital now, given the ongoing political attacks from Senator Charles Perry and others who have spoken here in recent months. it is very clear that this organization is not upset about the type of material that is available in the library. They're upset because they don't have a say-so and the final decision on what books are available to children. Again, going back to the educational qualifications, right? Dr. Rello, sorry about your neck, by the way. Dr. Rello has an educational doctorate, right? She's not going to give out medical advice, right? She's an educational doctor. She works in educational leadership. So it's interesting to me that individuals within this organization come up here month after month or did a poorly attended press conference and decided, well, we're going to complain about what is available to children. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm going to return to Anna Brown, who was our first name. Anna Brown. There you go, Anna Brown. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I've never done this before. So I've lived here in Lubbock for 9 years, and I actually have 3 kids currently attending public school in Lubbock ISD. And for those who actually live here, you know that parents have school choice from what school your kids go to, within district transfers to out-of-district transfers, to private schools. And Lubbock citizens strongly value parental choice. But parental choice, goes beyond simply choosing the school for your child. It also extends into the books they have access to at their school. Lubbock ISD has a great system that currently allows parents to see and access the entire school catalog, library catalog, and provides the opportunity for parents to choose which books they do not want their kids to check out from the library. Removing books from the library shelves takes away my right as a parent to choose what my kids can and cannot access at school. So if someone does not want their kid to read a certain book, they have the tools to be able to remove or ban that book for their child. But I don't think they should get to be the judge of what my kid gets to read at school and take away books from them and their education. If there are books that need to be reviewed, there's already a system in place. Flag the book, let the system do as it's designed to do. To the school board, thank you for following the letter of the law, and please continue to protect my parental right, and do not remove books from the school library shelves. Thank you.
Next is Brittany Midkiff. Brittany Midkiff. She's in overflow. Okay, we'll come back to her if somebody can let her know. Vera Rose Gimsa. Vera Rose Gimsa.
So my name is Vera Rose Gemza. Many of you know me before because I've come and spoken several times now. I had my 18th birthday back in June. I graduated from LHS the month before that. So I'm coming here with the perspective of both a student and a longtime speaker who's done extensive research on this subject. I've actually written an op-ed of my own in response to some of the same topics brought up today. I know that younger voices in this case are often being overshadowed. So I want to remind you that we live in an era where anyone can find absolutely anything they want to online. And no matter how much you want to believe that your child won't acknowledge or face these scary things or other worldviews, they will. Right now, Turning Point USA is acting on the front of protecting children from a boogeyman that they will have to face regardless of whether you present them with a safe option to learn about it. Say in our school libraries that are already being monitored by capable individuals and educators. According to Sky News in 2025, which is a British news outlet, 14 to 17-year-olds responded in a survey that over 55% had been exposed to inappropriate content online, many accidentally. And this is a trend we've seen repeat across the world, especially in places like the United States. And meanwhile, 8th grade Texans currently rank 44th in the country on reading, a crucial skill that teaches critical thought and other perspectives. school libraries within the district, or within these school libraries, I have seen firsthand how often these libraries are going underused. And it truly is sad to see that now we are trying to waste time and money and legal action on protecting our children from this invisible threat when there are far more urgent things happening. Moreover, intentionally reading inflammatory passages from the books available is weak. The lack of these books in our libraries, again, never stops these real things from happening in real life. I am sure you will hear some passages misused today from cautionary tales, but these cautionary tales are not to-do lists. They're the opposite, because they show the problem in which, and the real context in which these things happen. They help to point out these problems explicitly. We need these books, and we need the skills that they give us. Thank you.
I'd invite Ash Martinez to the podium.
My name's Ash Martinez, and as a student of LISD myself, I go to Hutchinson Middle School. I've been trying to find books that I really like, because in school, when I was reading books, they were fantasy books, and I love them. And I eventually found the books that represent me and help me the most. And they're the books that we're trying to ban, and sorry, I've never done this. I have read books like the ones that they're trying to ban, and they have helped me so much on consent and what to do and what not to do. And books like those actually, I feel like, help students learn what not to do instead of encouraging them to do those things. Because if we wouldn't make my librarian, Argyle, she knows what books not to bring into the school if they're too graphic, to anything. And I have found one book in the library that I love to read. I get every time that I've tried to read. Every time I try and get that book, I always get it. And I love reading it because it just inspires me so much. It's about this girl who grows up and never learns about LGBTQ. And that affects her because she learned to not like those people. But those people are the people that have the most pain and suffering, because we are teaching our children to not be friends with them. And I have been this type of way for a long time, and I have been neglected and not wanted in multiple groups of school, and that has affected me a lot. I went through this period of, does anyone actually like me? Because these people learn to not like my LGBTQ, and we're gonna learn about, and they're gonna see them in the real world, and they're gonna see us. And to say to just ignore them or ban them from society is really wrong. And that's, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jason Ronaldo. I'd invite Jason Ronaldo.
Hi, my name's Jason Ronaldo. I have lived in Lubbock since 2008, and I'm on my third and fourth children in LASD. And I once ran for Jason Ratliff's spot. Good to see you, Jason. I have a deep concern about children and their safety. I've worked in, I think I've counted 13 different jails and prisons across the country. I'm deeply invested in how harm can be done to kids. I'm a clinical psychologist by training. I've taught since 1995 at the college level, and this stuff is a big deal to me. When I think about the challenges that LISD is facing, books flying off the library shelves just don't seem like the highest issue. That, oh no, our children are reading so much, they might hear something that we don't want them to hear. That doesn't really seem like one of the top 30 threats that's out there. And then, I occasionally will hear somebody, a second point, that is deeply concerned about the welfare and safety of kids as well. And when I hear them express those concerns that a child might be exposed to something that is abhorrent to the parent or guardian or whatever, and might make the child uncomfortable, et cetera, or do harm, I'd like to, anybody thinking about those concerns and how to keep kids safe, I'd like to point out that there's this thing called the internet that's out there that is drastically more dangerous as far as children being exposed to ideas. And there's these cell phone things that have been around for a while. There's also artificial intelligence that can engage a kid endlessly in conversation. There are a number of actual threats. If we care about protecting kids, let's focus on not the library books that are mostly getting dusty on shelves, but the actual threats that really can affect children in negative ways, rather than spending an enormous amount of hours of humans to consider what paper and print materials are threatening our children. I'd like somebody to take these issues seriously. Thank you.
Frosty Poston, and I apologize if I'm saying that. Frosty Poston. Okay, I'll set that aside. Frosty? Oh, come forward. Sorry. I'm sorry, I couldn't see you moving.
Yes,
Hi.
I'm 80 years old, and I have returned to my home of Lubbock because Lubbock was the last conservative best place in the United States. Texas, yes, I came back to Texas too. And I have just thanked the Lord for every second I've been back here. I was asked, I've been very involved since I've come back. And because I'm 80 years, I don't have I don't have anything to lose except the kids that are coming behind me. And I've overlooked, and I've read snippets, and I was asked to read some of the stuff that were in the libraries here. And I said, well, of course I will. I got the copy of what I was to read, and I'm sorry. I will not blaspheme the Lord. I could not, I read maybe 2 minutes, and I said, Lord, forgive me. Forgive me. Forgive me for even seeing this, looking at this. I'm sorry, but books in the public library, and I have to pay taxes, but books, what I read, I got rid of, and I called the person that had said, will you read? And I said, yes, I will. And I said, I'm sorry. I made a commitment. I'm going to have to take it back. I cannot read it. I said, and I literally had nightmares over just the little bit that I read. I was so upset. And I'm not going to be able to read it. And if you did and knew that this is in our, I'm sorry. These are planting seeds of demons. That's all I have.
Thank you. Tracy Benefield? Tracy?
Hello. Thank you all for listening to the public and everything that we have to say. I really appreciate it. My name is Tracy Benefield. I am a former teacher, and I have 2 students who attend LISD. My background is that I have a degree in early childhood education as well as psychology. I'm sorry I don't have things prepared to say. I normally would have examples and facts and things for you, but I decided today, since I learned about this last minute, that I would just tell you some anecdotes from my own personal life. And so I have a son. He goes to LISD. He was in Hutchinson Middle School last year. He struggled deeply with mental health issues, and we were trying to work with him on these issues for a long time. One of the issues was that he had a hard time thinking about other people. But in 7th grade, he had a really wonderful English and reading teacher who exposed him to some of the most wonderful books. But they were books about hard topics, books about refugees and migrants, books about immigrants and their experience of oppression in this country, books about slavery, books about the Holocaust. They were very difficult to read, books about very, very difficult subjects. But what these books did was make him imagine what these people's experiences would be like. It gave him perspective on his own problems. It made him more resilient so that in his own daily life, he didn't feel like everything was such a big struggle, because it set his perspective in mind. And that's what reading these types of books can do for children. It's not about taking their innocence, it's about building their resiliency. It's about building the skills that they need to become good adults, to become skillful adults. If they don't learn how to handle the difficult realities of life now, in the safe sandbox that we provide them with all of the love and support of the teachers and parents around them, they will become adults who have never had to look at or face these issues and have to learn about them on the spot. And I can tell you, it's so much harder to learn as an adult how to deal with those issues than it is to learn as a child, when you are surrounded by safety and support and you have people who can help you contextualize these issues. And that's what we should be doing, not banning children from these experiences, not banning them, but talking with them and engaging with them in conversation so they're prepared when they go out into the world to face it on their own. Thank you.
Jordan Haverfield. Jordan Haverfield. Jordan Haverfield. I will set that to the side and we will try again in just a moment. Ann King. Ann King, to the microphone, please.
Hi, my name is Ann King. I will be reading from the book,
There we go.
My name is Ann King, and I'll be reading from the book, The Female of the Species by Toni Morin. The part that I will be reading is on page, hold on, I'm so sorry. It's on page 319. I'll start on 316. I will not speak the part that says God's name, Lord, in vain. But so on 317, it says, "Damn it, Jack," she hisses. "All I want you to do is fuck me. This book must be removed for indecent and profane content." Page 319. "We don't want any trouble," I say. "Neither do we," Ray says, and now his chest is inches from mine. "But some pussy'll do," he says to Branley. Page 20. I hear Branley screaming, but all I can do is struggle. Billy is stronger than he looks. I get my feet under me, but he's on his too, and get my arms pinned behind my back. I buck and kick, swearing a blue streak as I see Ray drag Branley toward him across the altar, her skirt pulling up to show a tiny red thong that covers absolutely nothing. He smacks her bare ass, leaving a welt. "You came up here looking for something, girl," he says, "and you're getting it." I'm fighting and twisting anything I can do to get free, but Billy's got a grip I can't break. Ray gets his mind set on something, not much you can do to stop him, Billy says, his tone weirdly conversational. He's had a bit to drink too. Let him have his fun and nobody will get hurt. It won't take but 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Like the fucking problem is that we're on a schedule and not that Brantley is about to get raped right in front of me. She's kicking and screaming, but he's already got her panties off and is going for his belt when I hear the sound of a shotgun being pumped. This book has so much sexual content that it is indecent, even if it had a point, maybe to teach a lesson not to drink too much, not to party so much, or for girls to tease by dressing so provocatively. The profanity is the other violation of Senate Bill 13 that requires it to be removed from school libraries. It is illegal for this book to be in the library. According to Senate Bill 13, it is to be removed because it is indecent and profane. Thank you.
I'll call again Jordan Haverfield. Jordan Haverfield? Good.
Hello. Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Rolo, and fellow community members. My name is Jordan Haverfield. I am a proud mother of 2 elementary students in this district, a lifelong resident of this community, and a product of Lubbock ISD. For the past 7 years, I have had the honor of serving as an LISD educator, currently teaching English 1 at Lubbock High School. I have taught over 800 students in the course of my career, and I hope to continue doing so for as long as my voice allows me. Growing up, I came from a home filled with too many people and not enough bedrooms. We attended Catholic church every Sunday, and yet, like so many young people, I still wrestled with who I was supposed to become. Navigating my identity as the third of 4 children was hard, but I found my footing through reading. I learned who I was at 12 years old. Picture this, 2006, Cavazos Middle School. Mrs. Durham's classroom at the very corner of what my peers and I called the big hallway. I am 32 years old today, and I still vividly recall Salamanca's drive through the dangerous winding mountain roads to Lewiston, Idaho, and walk 2 moons. I remember the trickery of the trapeze artist in The Fallen Angel. I remember trekking through the misty mountains with the uncertainty of Gollum in The Hobbit. And I remember the heartbreak and tears I cried as a 12-year-old when Tom Robinson was found unjustly guilty in To Kill a Mockingbird. Those books did not leave me astray, they anchored me. Living through those stories gave me my sense of belonging. They taught me empathy, justice, and compassion. They taught me that I was born to serve. Literature acts as both a mirror reflecting our own experiences and a window to the lives of others. My faith teaches me that we are called to love everyone, to live like Christ, and to be a light in people's stories. Removing books that address complex, diverse, or sensitive realities limits a student's ability to understand our world. Teenagers are at a stage where they learn to analyze information critically, evaluate viewpoints, and form independent conclusions. Adolescents also read significantly more when they have autonomy over their choices. Banning books out of fear deprives our kids of a safe, structured environment where they can wrestle with the big questions and build character under the guidance of trained educators. I would like to emphasize that we are all on the same team here when it comes to our kids. We all want them to feel welcome. We all want them to build beauty in the world and become positive assets to society. We all want them to find the light burning within them so that they too may be the light for someone else. I trust our teachers, I trust our librarians, I trust our administration, I trust our parents, I trust our students. Let us keep Lubbock ISD a place where every child can open a book, discover who they are, and find their light. Thank you.
And Anna Minhares. Anna Minhares?
Hi, I'm Anna Minhares, and I've been here plenty of times begging for some of these books to be removed. I have a list of things that I really don't want to read and waste my time with that because you've heard plenty. However, I do believe that the internet is accessible to all our children. It's up to the parent at the end of the day to determine and to monitor what our children are watching and listening to. We, the taxpayers, are asking for you all to remove these books with explicit things in them, because it's up to me as a parent to teach my child the way I want that child to grow up believing. It's not up to the books. It's not up to anybody else but me, as every parent is concerned that they can do whatever they want with their children as far as how they want to raise them up. It's not up to the schools. The schools are here to teach our children about math, grammar, English. What we need to incorporate is maybe gardening and financials and how to do taxes, not how to have sex. That's not right. The Word of God tells us that if we lead a child astray, you might as well tie a boulder around your neck and throw yourself into the deepest of the sea. I hope that you're ready and prepared to do such a thing. Because what you are doing, what you're allowing to happen, is you're allowing our children to be raped spiritually and emotionally. And I told you before that I would come back and say this over and over and over. I'm not done. It's not right for our children to have access to that. Because if they don't have access to it at home, why should they at a public school that we pay taxes for? If my children are not old enough to go into a store and buy a pornographic magazine, why are we, the taxpayers, giving it to them for free? And then we wonder, why is the rape crime so high? And for those that think that it's okay, well, I'm going to tell you, it's not okay. If that's what you want, go for it. But don't let every child have that access. They're getting raped spiritually and emotionally. You're training up a child the wrong way by having that access. I stay firm and teach them the basics like math and reading, grammar. Teach them the things they ought to know to go out into the world. I hope that you keep that in mind. I might have time to read one out of the Me, Earl, and a Dying Girl. Do you even know how to eat pussy? Huh. That's not what I send my child to school for. Thank you for your time. I hope you consider that you might end up having to tie a boulder around your neck.
Brian Brownlow. Brian Brownlow.
Good evening. Thank you for having this, and thank you for having me. I want to express my appreciation to all of you and what you do. You got a really hard job. You take a lot of abuse, and I don't intend to give you any of it tonight. I'm a former educator. I spent 15 years in the classroom as a biology teacher. I was a school administrator, building principal, and so my wife is a school teacher, and so I understand the difficulty that you have and the decisions that you as a school board have and that our teachers have. I want to honor some of the folks who may disagree with me on some things, and their position is very valid. We're not talking about removing the Iliad. We're not talking about removing the Hobbit. That's not what we're talking about. What we are talking about is removing very graphic materials that serve no purpose other than to titillate and to be a thinly veiled excuse for educational materials that are disguised, that are pornography that are disguised. Now, I want to end with this. I'm carrying something that I preach from. In it, you'll find inappropriate sexual content. You'll find a story of two women who get their dad drunk and then have sex with him in order to get pregnant by him. You will find a brother who murders his brother out of rage. You'll find a father-in-law who has sex with his daughter-in-law and excuses it because she was dressed up as a prostitute. You may ask, Pastor, I'm a pastor now, isn't it hypocritical at best and dishonest at worst for you to ask to remove books in our library that contain these types of materials when the very book that you call holy contains those. I would just say this to you. If you read the context of those stories, you will never find them normalized. You will never find them celebrated. You will never find them encouraged. Instead, the context of this book will show that those behaviors are destructive to individuals, families, and communities, regardless of their religious or non-religious beliefs. I think that there are a few books in our libraries. I know that there are a few library books that were read from here a few moments ago that do not do that. They miss a great opportunity to do that very thing, but they don't. Instead, they normalize, they celebrate, and they encourage the very worst in us. They have no redeeming qualities. Many of them do, but many of them do not. They instead celebrate, normalize, and encourage things that are damaging to individuals, families, and communities. And I would ask you to look at those and examine the context and make your own decisions about whether they're appropriate for any child. Thank you for your time.
Brittany Catcher. Brittany Catcher.
Good.
Yes, go ahead, sorry.
Hi, my name is Brittany. I agree with everything that good pastor said. Just wanted to put that out there. I also want to put it out there. My sister's an educator as well. She is a trained educator, and whenever I read some of this to her, she was appalled that it was in a children's library. But I will be reading from the same book that Ann did. It was, The Female of the Species by Toni Morton. Page 130. A hand is on my spine, pushing down into my pants and past my panties. Fingers twisting in search. Page 142. By which you mean I should let you rape my friend, Alex says. Her shirt is torn open so far I can see her bra. Her jeans are unbuttoned, already pushed a few inches below her, yet the word rape still jolts people. Like maybe these guys were just dragging her out to the woods to help Kiki take a piss. Page 146. They told another girl they would put their dicks in her mouth. They would have hurt my friend. They would have left bruises on her like the one that will radiate from his cocks. Page 158. Wait till she bangs your boyfriend, I mutter. Page 162. God, no. It's a small town kid. I probably dated the dads of half of the girls you fucked. Page 173. But we're talking and then we're kissing like it's how a run is supposed to end. It's electric and fluid and totally normal all at the same time. I pull her into my lap and she wraps her legs around my waist as if she knows exactly what she's doing, even though she's clearly an unexperienced kisser, which I'm thrilled about. I can tell I'm the first guy to kiss her, the first guy to bury his hands in her hair and crush her against him torso to torso. Page 189. Right now her hands are all over me, and mine are on her. And with any other girl, it'd be time to bring out the condom. But with Alex, I don't even consider reaching for my wallet. Instead, I pull back and put some space between us because I'm not exactly thinking with my heart right now. And my dick is trying to undo my zipper from the inside. Christ, it's cold, Brenly says, as she walks in, Adam trailing behind her. She's wearing the thinnest jacket possible. It hugs her tiny waist and accents the explosion of her boobs. Page 272. Hey, he calls as soon as he sees me, raising the box in the air. We've got it backward, babe. You're supposed to be the one delivering the pussy. I'm going to stop there and just say nobody has brought up the fact that this is illegal. SB 13 requires for the books that are indecent and profane to be removed from these libraries. And we're not taking the choice away from the parents. It is illegal for these books to be in the library. Thank you.
I'm going to return to Brittany Midkiff. Okay, sorry.
Hello. My name is Brittany Midkiff, a former LISD librarian of 12 years. I'm here today to thank the board for having a system that adheres to the law and works. Also, to remind everyone that there are a myriad of very accessible paths that already exist to protect your individual child at LISD. You can talk to your child about what you don't want them reading. Instilling morality in your child is not the job of the school system. It is ultimately the job of the parent. You can use the already provided channels, including through the online parent portal, to restrict any book you don't want your child to read. Librarians will respect these requests. If you're worried about books in a classroom libraries are now online, so parents can ensure their kids keep within their family expectations there. Teachers will respect these requests. These are all common sense ways a parent can keep their own child from topics they aren't ready for. However, once we cross into removing a book entirely from the school, it is no longer about parents protecting their own child. It becomes about the community as a whole agreeing that a certain book should not be accessible to children at all. Of course, wildly different opinions are going to happen. This community approach is already well reflected in LISD's current challenging process, in which an individual can easily flag a book for challenge, and then the SLAC committee, made up of parents, can decide as representatives the level of restriction the book should be under. The book is even removed from the shelves to err on the side of caution while it's under review, effectively censoring it temporarily. This process is democratic and already favors book removal over retention, and is entirely reasonable. This process is being followed by the books being discussed tonight. It may be slow and considered, but this is how it should be. We should consider carefully before we ban books outright, when our libraries are meant to serve every different type of kid. As LISD says, every child, every day. Please remember that also librarians are professionals with master's degrees in library science. Part of our own education is learning to select materials for the real community in which we live, not based on what we would personally prefer. We have been trained specifically not to seek indoctrination, not to press books upon patrons who aren't ready for them, but to try to match the individual to the material that most serves them right now. We are not the enemies of the parents. We are here to serve the diverse and wonderful community that we love and are a part of. Please work with us, not against us, as we strive to work for you. Thank you for your time, and I'd like to leave you with one final thought. When the dust settles and we have had the luxury of hindsight, how often are the book banners on the right side of history? Thank you.
I'd like to call Carol Owen. Carol Owen, are you present?
Hello, my name is Carol Owen, and my comment today is brief, but it pertains to all of the protested books. Christmas is coming soon. Books are wonderful gifts. They're classic gifts to give to young people. I've done that for years. I suggest to you that you consider one question as you think about which of these books to allow or disallow. Ask yourself, would I give this to one of my young relatives? Thank you.
Chuck Allman? Chuck? There you go.
My name's Chuck Allman. I'm a granddad. I got several kids that are teachers. I'm going to talk about the book 19 Minutes. The book is about aftermath of a school shooting. But down here it's got a content warning. You are about to access material that may contain content of an adult, in capital letters, nature. These files may include pictures and materials that some viewers may find offensive. If you are under the age of 18, or if such material offends you, or it is illegal for you to view these materials, please exit now. This book contains sexual activities, sexual nudity, not just nudity, sexual nudity, profanity, derogatory terms, violence, controversial social and political commentary, controversial religious commentary, alternate sexualities, hate, abortion, and suicide commentary. It's my understanding this book is in Lubbock High School, Talkington Middle School, and High School. I'd like to read, well, I wouldn't really like to, but I'm going to. Peter is a man that's a young man that's being harassed, and he's fixing to go in the shower after a workout. He takes his glasses off, and he said it makes everything blissfully fuzzy. So then Matt, who is an athlete, along with Drew, Matt suddenly twisted sideways. Jesus Christ, stop looking at my dick. Fucking fag, Drew said. Worse, what if he got hard right now, which was happening more and more lately? That would mean he was gay, wouldn't it? I wasn't looking at you, Peter blurted. I can't see anything. I don't have my glasses on. Drew's laughter bounced against the tile walls of the shower. Maybe your dick's too small, Maddie. I apologize for that bad language. I don't talk like that. I especially don't talk like that around women or around kids. I have talked like that in my previous life. I don't now. Praise the Lord. You can't hardly read a book in the New Testament that doesn't talk bad about sexual immorality. And that's what we're seeing here. These kids don't need to be reading that stuff. They need to be reading the Lone Ranger. I mean, the Lone Ranger, well, thank y'all for being here, and I want to say a prayer for you. We're politically on the opposite sides, but I hope your neck gets okay.
Okay, Dawn Hatley. Dawn Hatley.
Good evening, members of the school board. My name is Dawn Hatley. There we go. Good evening, members of the school board. My name is Dawn Hatley, and I reside within Lubbock ISD. My mother, aunt, and grandmother were teachers, a counselor, and a principal. I'm here tonight because I believe parents and community members have a responsibility to speak up about the reading materials that are made available to children in our schools. I am concerned about sexually explicit books being placed in school libraries where students may be able to access them. My concern is not about preventing students from learning, reading, or being exposed to different viewpoints. It's about making sure that the books provided in a school environment are appropriate for the age and maturity of the students who can access them. Parents should have the confidence that their children can use the school library without being exposed to graphic sexual content that they are not developmentally prepared to encounter. Public schools have an obligation to provide educational materials that serve legitimate instructional purposes while also respecting the rights and concerns of parents. I respectfully ask the school board to review these materials carefully, consider the age and developmental level of the students who have access to them, and establish clear, transparent standards for sexually explicit content in school libraries. Allowing these books in school libraries can become a gateway to normalizing increasingly mature content. Once the standard for what is considered acceptable is lowered, it can become easier for even more explicit material and action to be introduced. I also ask that parents be giving meaningful notice, and it seems like they have been aware of that, and an opportunity to participate when materials containing mature or sexually explicit content are being considered for school libraries. This is not about attacking teachers, librarians, students, or anyone's personal beliefs. It's about appropriate boundaries, parental involvement, spending taxpayers' money wisely, and maintaining an educational environment where teachers can learn without unnecessary exposure, where children can learn without unnecessary exposure to graphic sexual material. I respectfully urge the board to take these concerns seriously and to put the well-being of students and the rights of parents at the center of this discussion. These books should be something each and every one of you want to see removed. I believe the school board is the first step toward correcting the problem by addressing these materials at your level, establishing clear standards, and ensuring meaningful parental involvement. We can take responsible actions to protect the education of our children that our children deserve. It is time to step up. Our children deserve better. Show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching, show integrity and dignity. Titus 2:7. Thank you for listening.
Next is Donita Clark. Donita Clark.
Good evening. I'm Donita Clark, and I'm a former teacher and have a student in LISD. I'm very curious why you have made the removal of these sexually explicit books almost impossible to be removed from our school libraries. You have changed the rules for the reviewing process, or who can actually review a book, or you will hide them when parents want to come and check out a book to review them, only to put them back on the shelf after the parent has left. Perhaps you're not aware of Senate Bill SB 13, which prohibits this kind of book, these kind of obscene books in our school libraries. They're not even allowed in the jails in Texas because prisoners are not allowed to see them. Why would you show them to children? They offer no value to the young children. There is it gives them no quality of life after you read one. It does not prepare them to be future successful citizens of our community. They don't offer problem-solving skills or educational skills or even moral behavior. Only gross stories do they share. The books have been identified to destroy children's innocence, their joy, and their hope in their hearts, souls, and minds. And what a waste of taxpayers' money. Pornography is addictive, and there is no benefit for having these books in our school libraries. Perhaps you should go back to remembering the historical books of your youth when you were in school and about America's greatness, the famous scientists and inventors, people who were wise and who had courageous actions, like George Washington, Booker T. Washington, Edison, other people of our history that we recall, men of character. We want our children to have a moral character when they leave our schools. We want them to have joy and enjoy school and have a desire for learning. Board members, please take your role seriously on this issue. Our children's future is at stake because the decisions you make today and moving forward will affect future generations. If you do not remove these books out of the reach of children and the related materials, you're only going to harm and destroy their minds, hearts, and souls. It is the job of educators and school leaders to promote good learning and not to expose them to addictive, harmful materials. Thank you.
Dorothy Boyette. Dorothy Boyette.
Hello, I'm Dorothy Boyer. I've lived in Lubbock since '93. I'm retired from Covenant as a nurse, and I work at the Impact Center as a volunteer nurse. And I'm not against books. I've read 70 books myself this year. But when I read what's in this, some of those words, afterwards I needed a bar of soap to wash my eyes out with. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Elizabeth Rogers. Elizabeth Rogers.
Board. So glad to be here. I'm speaking tonight in support of Lubbock ISD's library policies. I know you have read through the law and are following the procedures that have been in place from Senate Bill 13. True parental rights means having full transparency over what your child reads. Lubbock ISD empowers us to do exactly that by providing 24/7 access to online school catalogs and direct communication with campus librarians and the ability to place individualized checkout restrictions for our own kids. In real time, what this looks like, I have a student at Roscoe Wilson in a wonderful library. Every time he checks out a book, my husband and I get the name of the book. We get to read it at home together. I am very aware of what he is reading, and if I wanted a restriction or did not want him to check out a book, there's a process in place for me to do that. This means that any of these materials have been discussed tonight may have already been individually restricted if you choose to do so. At the same time, the district policy ensures accountability through the formal review process. And it's led by parents of the School Library Advisory Council, or SLAC, in full alignment with all the state standards. This creates a fair, objective framework where concerns are thoroughly reviewed rather than rushed through and sweeping reactionary decisions. Parental rights means empowering every parent to guide their own child's education, not allowing one group of individuals, many who have no ties to Lubbock ISD whatsoever, to dictate what everyone else's children are allowed to read. Lubbock ISD's policy strikes the right balance between family choice, state compliance, and responsible oversight. I've heard so much testimony today about others wanting to influence an entire generation of students that's preventing their own parents from having that opportunity or a discussion. So I just encourage you to please continue this policy and strike the right balance between parental rights and the law that we are required to follow. Thank you.
Gail Modral. Gail Modral.
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay. Come on up.
I'm Gail Modral, and I'm a former librarian at Lubbock ISD, and I just answered the call today to read a statement from Riley Rodriguez, a candidate for State Senate District 28. And his comments are, I apologize for not being able to attend this meeting, as I had already committed myself to another event tonight. But as a resident of West Texas, I want to add my voice to those in the community that believe in the principles this country was founded on, to speak out against those who would seek to tear apart the fabric of our free society and push back against this troubling precedent trying to be set here. The ability to access knowledge freely is the ability to build a better community, and books are a core part of that. Books give the reader the ability to understand the world through another person's thoughts, feelings, and experiences, and process them on a deeper level. Books and access to them is how we have been able to evolve as a civilization, not just through academic means, but through the stories and experiences of others, creating an informed and empathetic society. The danger here is for the accessibility to books that may challenge the assumptions of those who want to ban them, and in the links of those who want to ban them are willing to go to hold on to these assumptions. For those on the committee, knowing you are not only supported in Lubbock, but those all over West Texas who believe in our educators and librarians. Remember, the good guys have never been the ones banning books. Riley Rodriguez, candidate for Texas State Senate, District 28. This concludes his remarks. I will continue with mine. I agree with what Brittany said and the other librarians. And like he says, banning books, people who ban books have never been on the right side of history. Thank you.
Gloria Toady. Gloria, front row.
Hello, my name is Gloria Tody, and tonight I'm going to read out of a book called Heroine by Mindy McGinnis. And I'm going to tell you in advance, I am going to blush because I am going to say words that I normally do not say. And we are advocating for children that may perhaps do not have parents in the home. And at this point, maybe they're taking a book home. And so this story is all about drug addiction. And I'm not going to read the references to the pages. Can I rub your back? How about your vagina? Those are some serious pills, girl. Oxy, she whistles. Nice. I pop one of those 20 minutes before I need to get up, relying on the warm fuzzies it provides to push me through the pain and get me on my feet. I couldn't even shower if it wasn't for Oxy. You see how it's tantalizing them? This is a fun lane to enter, right? You could get some serious cash for these, maybe like even a new car. It was supposed to come out light when I told her to suck my dick in Spanish. First one's free because you're breaking my heart, she says. After that, it's $1 a milligram. Smart tends to go out the door when sex is involved, Ed says. Time is against me, and I'm not the sharpest, thanks to the double shot of Oxy I just did in the bathroom. I'm not a junkie, right? Tell yourself whatever you want to stay happy, but you'll need to up your milligrams. You've built up tolerance by now. Right now, I'm popping 80s twice a day. She takes way more than I do. She takes away more than I do, and she looks like she has all her shit together. If I did 2 Oxys, I'd be dead to the world, floating on my bed, hell is high. I'm even better at scanner codes than I am at blowjobs, she says, sucking on her fork. The county doesn't pay Ed's shit, so she supplements her income with the old people's meds. That's Oxy, Josie says, wiping away her chin clean of double whiskey. I asked Josie, who's crushing the Oxy? Somebody told me if you snort it, you get high faster, Josie says. I crushed up 40, Josie says. I lean over the table and sure, I guess I just plug one nostril and snort, right? Josie wants us to show her how to snort. We'll help her. I'm getting good at hiding things, I admit quietly, like what, Carolina asks. Like pain, like fear, like dead people's OxyContin prescriptions. Dick pics from your boyfriend, I say. Do you want these? Leaves her ass holding a palm out to me. I hug him. It's spontaneous and a little awkward since I'm grabbing for the free Oxy at the same time. Jadine is pulling needles out of her purse, sealed like a paper in a Band-Aid. It looks sterile and proper, like we're playing doctor or something. Fuck waiting. The Oxy goes straight into her bloodstream. Let me know when you're ready to graduate. Graduate to heroin? Jadine calls over her shoulder. Look, Oxy is basically synthetic heroin, just in a pill form. The only difference between them is the delivery system. Also, one is illegal and one is not. You really think the way of using Oxy is okay? We're not taking our own pills, we're buying other people's pills, and that is illegal. This is the content in this book, and I think it is damaging to children's minds.
Grace Rogers? Grace Rogers?
Hello, my name is Grace Rogers, and I'm a retired teacher, and I taught at Coronado High School. I taught English, literature, and grammar, and also AP government. So I'm glad to have a chance to speak. I'm generally opposed to book banning. I taught books about adultery, about murder, about overthrows of governments, about racism. Those books were Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, The Crucible, and of course everybody has read The Scarlet Letter. Those books had to do with the same issues we're talking about. The only thing that has changed is the language. The language sounded more beautiful, perhaps, in Nathaniel Hawthorne or Shakespeare, but the subjects are the very same thing. So the language is just it's a different time. And if you don't think kids talk the way some of these passages read, you haven't been in very many school halls, as I have. So maybe I don't like the language so much, but the topics are relevant. And as far as having a book about school shootings, to me, what is really obscene are school shootings. And yet, how many in this room are going to say, let's ban guns? Nobody, probably, because it's never going to happen. I don't believe that we should ban books. I never had a parent that asked me to criticize anything that we read. I remember one time in an AP English class that I was not teaching, some parent asked that they not read a book, and they just simply found another book for the child to read. I consider high school kids to be students, adults, not adult students, but older students. And they also were teaching a college course. So I would hope that I'm impressed with the policy that you have here. We didn't have anything like that when I was teaching. So I applaud you for your hard work. I trust teachers. I trust librarians. I trust good citizens like you are, serving our schools. And if parents wish their children not to read these books, obviously they have many ways not to. But when you take a book out of the shelves, you take away the book from every child. And I don't think that any single parent has a right to do that. Thanks.
Henry Carter. Henry Carter.
All right, hello, Henry Carter, speaking on the issue number 3. I like to begin, we've been reading a lot of stories, so I'd like to start with the story of the boy who cried wolf. We constantly hear about this boy who yells, oh, there's 1,030 books. That's a really round number, by the way, really conveniently round. And the community comes, and we all come to this meeting, and we all ask ourselves, well, let's hear about these books. And then we only hear small snippets. We only hear little things, 2 chosen books of 1,030. And instead of actually talking about the procedure, talking about why they should be banned, we just hear them read. And I'd also ask, why are everyone who keeps reading these books not parents in this community? They don't have students. Why are the people who are speaking out against these books, none of them are students? Not a single student who has come up and spoke, who actually is in this district, has asked you to ban these books. They've actually come here and asked you the opposite. So that's the people I'd be listening to. Your constituency is not taxpayers. It's the students and parents. It's not someone who came in and read you for a very long amount of time a book that's honestly quite poorly written. But the point is that they can't be banned by people who cry wolf every time they feel like they need to make a political message. Who conveniently, this political message happens at the same time the lieutenant governor also decides to make this political message. So I ask this board, and specifically that committee, to ignore the boy who cried wolf. To look inside themselves as a committee and understand that their job is as the committee, and they have been elected for that purpose, to ignore those people and make the decisions based on their expertises, which, in my hope, does not ban those books, as they have not done yet. Thank you for your time.
Next is James French. James French.
Good evening, board. I just want to start off by saying that I am not a fan of banning books. However, I'm a huge fan of adult supervision of appropriate content, for age-appropriate content. I'll be reading from books on the shelf right now, Kingdom of Ash. Page 394, with a growl, Rowan swept his arms into her. Rowan swept her into his arms, never tearing his mouth from hers, as he carried her to bed, as he had set her down gently. Off came their boots, the jackets, the shirts, and the pants. And then he was with her, the strength of his heat pouring into her bare skin. She couldn't touch him fast enough, feel him against her enough. Even with his mouth roved down her neck, licking over that spot where he was claiming marks had been. even when he roamed further, worshiping her breast as she arched up into each lick and suckle. Even when he knelt between her legs, his shoulders spreading her thighs wide, he tasted her over and over until she was writhing beneath him. "You are my mate," he said, the words near guttural. He nudged at her entrance, and she shifted her hips to draw him in. Rowan thrust her into a mighty stroke as he plunged his teeth into the side of her neck. She cried out, claiming release already barreling along her spine, but he began moving. Moving his teeth remained in her, and she moaned with each drive of his hips. Then the sheer size of him, decadence she would never be able to get enough of. She dragged her nails down his muscled back. I'm just reading excerpts from the book. Every thrust into her, Manon answered with a rolling, demanding movement of her own. "Stay," the word echoed in her breath. Dorian took one of her legs and hefted it higher, angling him closer. He groaned at the perfection of it, and Manon swallowed the sound with a kiss of her own, a hand clamping on his backside to propel him harder, faster. Dorian gave Manon what she wanted, gave himself what he wanted, over and over and over. Manon's breathing was ragged as Dorian when they pulled apart at last. As she crawled into Rowan's lap, not entirely caring that anyone might stride up or down the stairs, and kissed him sillily, they halted, breathless and wild-eyed, before she could decide it wouldn't be worth a bad idea to unfasten his pants right there, or that his hand discreetly and lazily rubbing that damn spot between her thighs should be inside her. Elide bit her lip, her breast becoming heavy, tingling. I might slip. Her eyes drifted down her body, but he made no move. A dangerous time, that time. Oh, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
This is Jamie Anderson. Jamie Anderson.
Here we are. I have prepared something to say, but I'm hoping there's time for me to make a comment about some of the statements that were made. And if it can't be tonight, I will hope to do that another time. So, I'm a member of this community and willing to fight and pay for the best public education in Lubbock and ultimately for our nation. It matters. The health of our children, both in character, virtue, skill, and intellectual rigors, will shape today and our culture for many years to come. It is my conclusion that the ethos of the school board and TASB, as you have placed it, and legislature will uphold the standards for accomplishing this burdensome task. That's what's happening. No grand building will secure this vision, but commitment will. As I stand here today, it is an anathema to me to understand how the playing out of this issue and content in the books being in our school libraries became so complicated. The effort and energy through the competing sentiments and action explains to me its volatility. I have participated for several years with eager citizens to dedicate personal time to evaluate the books in question. But now, Texas bill, which I have here, I've read it several times, has done that for us. Having read this letter of the law, I am more confused than ever over the actions of LISD and SLAC. Let me emphasize, we are not asking to ban any books or burn any books or wag at them. We are asking to have them removed and allow the law to take them out of the catalogs and shelves. Might I add, you can go, a parent that wants their child to read any of this can get those books anywhere. I can give them bargain books down the street. This is completely available on the internet and on your phones. Now, I hope, okay, so I hope it will resonate with you that if you discover that your grade school child or grandchild, this is an analogy I have, has a conversation texting or on their computer that represent anything we've said here on the books. Maybe not, but when but it would seem to me that you might take action on it. And I wanted to add a wife or a husband. If you get any of this text on or your computer and know it, I have a feeling it's going to jeopardize the relationship. And that's my point. So what, oh, that was fun for a while. But I have more to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Shirey, am I saying that correctly? Thank you.
Hey y'all, I'm Jeff Shirey. I'm speaking on number 3. My bona fides are I was a LISD student. I work with LISD in the modern days. I was an Evans Eagle. I was the last freshman class of Evans Junior High before it was Evans Middle School. Go Eagles. And then I was a Monterey Plainsman in class of '09. Wow, that timer does go quick, huh? Fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten. This is a G.K. Chesterton, a famously conservative guy, and I'm representing the conservative position of follow the law, mind your business. Y'all are following the law, and it's the second part that seems to be the issue. There's a lot of stuff that I personally find objectionable. I'm not going to speak what I consider obscenities into a microphone to make a point. Instead, I will do what I think these authors tried to do and try to get the point across by telling a story. I was, back in Evans, voted most academic, which is still pretty funny, because I was a reader, voracious reader, didn't have a book. I think Tom Clancy was what cemented it, because I just went through the whole Hoover at the time. Tom Clancy books, military, death, destruction, terrorism, lots of objectionable content. Nobody seemed to bat an eye about any of those. And it is the reading of books that turn that shy, nerdy kid into the shy, nerdy adult you see before you today. Specifically, I want to bring you back to Monterey. AP English, Dr. Cheryl Blair. I was an edgy teenage atheist, and we had to read the book of Genesis for the thing. I didn't want to read the Genesis book of the Bible. There's a lot of stuff in there, kind of boring, a lot of lineages, and a lot of stuff that morally I was like, I'm not so fond of, but I didn't try to keep everybody else from reading it. I read it, I wrote the papers, I cited my sources, and I got good grades. Dr. Blair was not a fan of my position, but she was a fan of my citations. And that's what you got to do. Sure, we have tons of educators and teachers and librarians and all kinds of people with actual training saying, yeah, probably shouldn't take these opportunities away. And we have a lot of people who are personally not big fans of the stuff. But as a kid who grew up in LISD and grew up poor in LISD, the library is where I got my books. And where I got my books is where I got my me. Please keep doing what you're doing, because it seems to be doing well. Thank you.
Jim Hill. Jim Hill, you'll come forward.
Good evening, Good evening. My name is Jim Hill. My wife and I have lived in Lubbock off and on since 1968, and our 3 children are all graduates of LISD. And I'm going to take a little wide view to this subject, but I want to tell you a story first. While visiting the Massachusetts Museum of Art in May of 2014, I met Angelo Palacio, a Marine Corps veteran of the Vietnam War, working as a security guard for the museum. Originally from San Antonio, Angelo describes himself as a Mexicano-American patriot. We struck up a conversation that could have lasted 30 seconds, but ended up lasting almost half an hour. After his 3 daughters reached adulthood, he spent several weeks traveling across the country honoring his fallen brothers and trying to make sense of their sacrifice. The result of this is a 16-page poem that I hold in my hand. Let me read a few lines. I still see those bodies laying, broken rag dolls, once live Viet Cong, lives cut short, theirs and ours, democracy's wages, the cost of being free. And at the headstone of a veteran cemetery in Bourne, Massachusetts, he says this: another youth from the great nation, another vision so divine, a sacred treatment of justice and freedom. Here democracy is fashioned. And then at the end of his poem, there is no voice so loud as that one of an oppressed mind. Also in my hand is a list of the 54 available emblems of belief that can be placed on government headstones and markers. Just in case you've missed it, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has whittled this down so that it is more in line with his personal religious beliefs and practices. What does this have to do with banning books in public schools? Millions like Angelo have sacrificed to preserve freedom secured by our Constitution, many with their lives. They sacrifice so that we, young and old, maintain the freedom to read and write about what we choose. Book banning is an assault on everyone's freedom. It's an unconstitutional attempt to silence and erase all voices that don't align with whoever they are, else or other person's personal belief, heritage, and lifestyle. Thank you.
Joe Conister? Joe? Okay, come ahead.
My name is Joe Knatzer.
Sorry, I didn't pronounce
That's
it
fine.
correctly.
Everybody gets it wrong. And I am a proud product of LISD. I went to Dupree, O.L. Slayton, and Lubbock High School, and I graduated from Texas Tech. I have long venerated the wonderful teachers and instructors that I met along the way. I want to say that I think the state law governing books is way too strict. But I commend the school board on following the law. I think you have no choice because that's where your funding comes from. And I also want to say that as a 13-year-old child, I grew up without the internet, without cell phones, but I had a dear friend whose sister was 3 years older, and she read us Lady Chatterley's Lover over the phone. Now, my parents didn't know that, and they certainly would not have approved, but I somehow survived it and managed to go on and live a useful and, I think, productive life. For the people here who got up and read very, very graphic passages out of context, I want to say, you disgust me. You are adults. And this isn't a meeting where serious people are meeting to discuss serious topics. I hope that people today will take into account that we all are a product of our upbringing, and that we all may have different interests and different standards. I personally would not impose my religion or my religious preferences on anyone, nor do I wish anyone else to try to impose their religious preferences on me
My children are my grandchildren. I want to thank the school board for taking the stands that you have taken, and to please consider that we are a free people. We do have freedom of religion, and we do have freedom of speech, and you all have incorporated into this system a way for parents to know and to approve or disapprove the books your children are reading. Let it go at that. Do your duty, parents. Don't try to push it off on somebody else or let somebody else take it over for you. It will never work. Thank you.
Okay, Kathy Vanderveer? Is that right? Kathy, sorry, I'll let you correct me.
I'm Kathy Van Devender. I was a teacher for 31 years, retired for 11, so I started over 40 years ago. I know how impressionable a child's mind is, especially as they enter their teen years. And you are allowing books that are essentially, like Anna said, raping our kids' minds. And as a child of sexual abuse at 9 years old, I can tell you, it's something that you live with the rest of your life. Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every month, every year. And this is what you want for your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids, reading and looking at. A couple of months ago, I went to a Citizens for Education Reform meeting. I had heard these books, and I had heard these books, I've heard them read for a couple of years now, but I had never actually held one in my hands and looked at the pictures and read the words, and then had to hand them to a man, the mayor of Lubbock. I was so embarrassed. I could not unsee or unhear what I read. There's good and there's evil in this world, and I would hope you would choose good for these innocent children, because my life was changed forever. If I can change one kid from what I endured, I am willing and ready to stand up for our kids today. Thank you for your considerations.
Larry Holland? Larry Holland? Oh, there you are. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
LISD is violating state law, specifically SB 13. Texas state law requires you to act. Removing the requested books from school libraries is a simple solution. There is an army of volunteers that will help you if you allow them to help you. Action is not an option. Inaction. Inaction is not an option. Are you aware of sovereign immunity? Sovereign immunity that LISD enjoys will protect the district from disobeying a state of Texas mandate. It will not protect the district from disobeying a state of Texas mandate. Now, this is my personal understanding. The school district has sovereign immunity from lawsuits if they comply. Lawsuits that keep these books out of your libraries will be thrown out because they violate state law. LISD and the school board do not have immunity if they are in violation of Texas state law. I plead with you, let us avoid unpleasantness, more unpleasantness, by simply taking these books out. This community has already risen against abortion, the issues of sanctuary city for the unborn, the marijuana issue. My name is Larry Holland. I've been here for 35 years. My son and my daughter graduated from Lubbock High. We're not talking about actually banning books. We're talking about taking age-appropriate books out of the school libraries. If they want to get them, they can go to the public library. If the parents want them to have them, they can go to the public library. But these are about age-appropriate books. Thank you.
Laura Whitley? Laura? Laura Whitley? I'll set it aside and we'll try one more time unless that's someone in the overflow. Lena Zapata?
Hello, my name is Lena. I am a resident of Lubbock, a pastor here in this community, and I'm the mother of 6 children. Children and families that I love, minister to, and pray for every week attend Lubbock ISD schools. I'm standing here as a Lubbock resident, as a mother, as a pastor, an ambassador for Jesus Christ, and as someone who believes that every adult in this community has a responsibility to care for the well-being of children. When we know better, we must do better. I had no idea these books were in the public school libraries until Susan Perez with Citizens for Education Reform educated me on this topic. After finding out the details of this battle, I feel responsible to speak up and educate those who, like me, had no idea, to fight for the innocence of the next generations. Silence is not an option when the defenseless are at risk. I want to make something very clear tonight. This is not about being against books or education. It is about being for children, being children. Books are powerful. They can educate, inspire, challenge, and open a child's mind to an entire world of possibilities. But because books are powerful, what we place in front of children matters. There is a difference between exposing students to difficult ideas and exposing them to sexually explicit or indecent material. As a pastor, I spend a great deal of time helping families deal with the consequences of things our children are exposed to far too early. As a mother, I understand that one of the most sacred responsibilities God has given parents is to guard, guide, and prepare our children. A school should not undermine that responsibility. Parents should be able to send their children to school trusting that the adults entrusted with them will protect their innocence, not introduce them to sexual content that many parents would never knowingly place in their hands. This isn't only a Christian issue. You don't have to share my faith to believe that children deserve boundaries. You don't have to attend my church to believe that parents deserve a voice. And you don't have to agree with me on every issue to recognize that there are some materials that simply do not belong. Is that better? Thank you. The information presented to you tonight comes after approximately 130 reconsideration forms have been submitted, and still to date, only 10 books are known to have been removed. A list of 635 that are concerning and likely not appropriate for children was turned for the library committee to consider, but they did not. So I would ask this board something very simple. Why would an institution meant to protect and help our children not only disregard these parents and concerned voices, but would even break the law to keep these vile books in their libraries that even prisons have banned? There are thousands upon thousands of extraordinary books available to our students. Removing sexually explicit or indecent materials does not deprive our children of literature. Thank you.
Mark Parnell? Powell?
This is Laura Whitley. I was in the back row.
Oh, you were okay, Laura. Yeah.
Okay, am I good? Okay. Well, first of all, I told a friend tonight I was going to be here, and my time's already over.
No, you're good, but
Okay.
you might get really close to the microphone.
Okay, I'll
It
try,
is-
I'll try. I told a friend this evening or earlier today, I said, I'll come here and be a warm body, but I'm not speaking. And I will say the good Lord put it on my heart to speak to you because I'm going to tell you something. 20 years ago at a church in Belton, Texas, a young man who worked in our IT department assembled a group of parents and grandparents. And unfortunately, it was a very small group. But you know what he told us that night? He told us that pornography makes more money than all of professional sports combined. And I'm here to tell you that that has not changed. Since I've been here 14 years, I've heard, and you'll have to excuse me for being a little bit nervous here, I have heard of a board member of a private school superintendent down near I-20, a local dentist, a county employee, as a result of their inappropriate sexual activity, suicide, jail, resignations, all of that happened to them. And I'm here to tell you that there is an epidemic in these kind of behaviors. And I suspect every year you're looking at your policies, your personnel policies, and saying, how can we prevent our staff and faculty from doing something inappropriate with our children who we have responsibility for? And recently, it wasn't LISD, but it's been other school districts in West Texas that have found themselves confronted with this issue, whether it's band directors, coaches, whether it's male or female. We have an epidemic of pornography and addiction. It's like anything else. Some people can look at pornography and turn away or put it down. But there are some people that their minds are rewired, and I don't think you want to be rewiring your young people. This material is sexual in nature, and many fine books are sexual in nature. But this is graphic, sexual, explicit pornography, in my opinion. I'm like the Supreme Court Justice that said, I can't give you a definition of pornography, but I know it when I read it. And trust me, tonight you heard graphic, sexual, explicit pornography, and you don't want to be any part of exposing our children to that. Thank you.
And Mark, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading this name. With an Outlook.com email address, Mark, maybe it's Powell, Parnell. Nope, okay, we'll come back to that one. Malik Williams.
Madam Chair and members of the Education Board, my name is Malik Williams. I am a local attorney and the Democratic candidate that's running for Texas House District 83. I rise today to deliver two arguments before our community. One being individual liberty. Why is it that if we have one household over here, why are they dictating what this household over here is able to learn? That is basically the scenario put before us this afternoon. You have heard it from several individuals already. There exists a program in place that allows for parents to be alerted whenever their kids are going to take out a book. They have the opportunity to say no. So I'm confused as to why we are here. Because it seems, and this is not to attack anyone's personal religious beliefs or personal values, but again, if Ms. Zeiniger If you have an issue with what your kids are going to read, why is that going to affect Miss Lawson's kids at school? If Miss Lawson has an issue with what Mr. Ratliff what his kids are going to read, why do you have the ability to tell him what his kids can and cannot read? That takes us to our second point. There are community concerns larger than books. As of right now, Texas ranks 47th in overall education. 30 years ago, under Ann Richards, we used to rank in the top 10. How is the issue to solve that to take away literature? Now, whether you believe it has value or not, it is up to the parents to decide what their kids are reading. And mind you, I would love it if anyone actually did a survey about what books are actually being checked out of the library. Hardly any kids are going to the library as is right now. So please run those numbers to me, Turning Point USA, about the numbers of kids going to schools checking out books, because it's not happening. As of right now, we are facing a teaching shortage. Why? Because teachers are being forced to deal with situations like this. Right now, 1 in 5 kids are going to be born into poverty. How is the solution to help those kids to ban books? 1 in 5 of our neighbors are living in poverty. And instead of helping those families and those kids, we're banning books. So please be so serious. Let's do something to help the kids of Texas. The Texas kids need better. Texas kids need better now. Texas kids need better tomorrow. And it is up to us as the adults in the room to make sure Texas is better for all kids. Thank you.
Mary Catherine Arias. Mary Catherine? Hi, I know you. Sorry.
Hello. Okay, I'm going to do a mic check before check. Are we good? Thanks. Hello, my name is Mary Catherine Arias. I am a librarian in LISD. My credentials, I hold a bachelor's degree in elementary education from Texas Tech. I have a master's degree in curriculum and instruction with a minor in language literacy, and I also hold another master's degree in library science. So, I know how to pick books for kids. I would like to say that I support the board's process. It has been a bumpy road for us to place it, and it's put in a lot of more work in for librarians, but I also think that it was necessary and it was missing. And so I do approve of it. I do believe that the process should be trusted. I'm also a parent. I have 2 sons in your district, and I think parents are allowed to make individual choices for their children. They can contact their librarian and restrict their child's access to specific titles. This respects families without removing those books for every child, including my own sons. I respect their choices, and to restrict what they read, I ask that my decision as a parent is also respected. Whenever I'm hearing these people taking out of context, it is specifically in these policies that we cannot do that. And that is why, I think there was a pastor that just said there were different instances in the Bible, but we don't need to take it out of context. And I agree. And so, whenever you are reviewing these processes, please take in consideration the entire book in its entirety and not just specific passages. Many of these books have been challenged because they address difficult realities that young people face: grief, addiction, assault, body image, and loss. What a blessing it is for those of you in the crowd that have not experienced that or know little ones that have or haven't had that. I have. I do. And I think that some of those books are allowed because it lets a child realize that they are not alone. Please trust your librarians. Please trust this review process. It is working. And allow families to make their own choices for their children. Thank you.
My apologies for mispronouncing your name. Peter Mulberger. Peter Muhlberger.
My name is Peter Muhlberger. I'm a former professor of the social sciences at Carnegie Mellon University and Texas Tech, and a former program director at the National Science Foundation. I'll be talking about what the social science literature shows about so-called harmful books that students might encounter in school libraries. It generally points to these books actually being beneficial. I'll focus on research on teen exposure to sexual content, since that seems to be the topic of the day. And I need to begin by saying that this research is really hard to do and limited. It is difficult to get access to minors in U.S. schools, and especially if the topic is of a sexual nature. In addition, or likely relatedly, the traditional values folks have targeted researchers who wish to study teen sexuality. These researchers face hostile press, weaponized FOIA requests, government hearings, and harassments. Many have left the field. I was able to find one well-conducted study on the impact of smut on sexual behavior, a Taiwanese study. However, the study was not of a school library-approved young adult literature, but exposure to adult pornographic material of all kinds. A noteworthy fact is that books made up only 17% of total exposure as measured, and is probably less here. This does raise the question of why people who are concerned with student exposure to explicit materials choose to focus on school library books. Students can easily access a never-ending supply of pornographic material online, despite age verification. Doesn't work. But book banners are not demanding students surrender their cell phones and internet access. I believe the organizations behind the book banners are seeking to undermine public schools. Another type of study is content analysis of young adult literature and interviews with their authors to understand why they include certain material. One of the better examples of this is the book Sexual Content in Young Adult Literature by Gillis and Simpson. They found that sex is typically used for character growth and maturation and provides models for teens to safely consider. Many such novels depict honest and healthy relationships which help youth readers develop. Some depict harmful relationships as a warning. A final type of study is research on the consequences of using young adult literature as part of comprehensive sexuality education. Palmer and Hirsch did a thorough review in 2022 and found only 18 empirical studies in this domain. These studies found that young adult literature plus classroom discussion increases empathy, increases understanding of interpersonal violence, aka rape, and teaches readers about sex, romantic relationships, and sexual health, thus providing needed additions to sex ed. What doesn't work is abstinence-only education.
Try once again for Mark. Mark? Okay. Okay, that's you. If you will. Yeah. Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Mark Punzo, and I'm here because I did some praying after I got to read some of these excerpts. And the first thing that jumped up is when I read one, it incites lust, okay? And these are children, to incite this kind of lust. They can't handle it. I know adults can't handle it. But these books, the things I've read, you don't want that. And the other thing when I was reading, it promotes promiscuity. Do we want to promote promiscuity? Is that what we want? You know, it also promotes vulgarity. Is that what we want? The ones I've read promote all those things. One thing that hasn't been addressed, I was 28 years safety officer at the Health Science Center, plant operations. I had to teach on different diseases And you know the thing I found out? In sex, there's a lot of disease, and it's not being presented. None of those things I read tell the truth. They're half lies. They want to get you excited. And guess what? You end up caught. I was also stationed in the Philippines during Vietnam. I was assigned to the largest Pacific air hospital in the Pacific Air Command. The whole 5th floor was dedicated to venereal disease. They call it STDs now, but it was venereal disease there. I was able to meet people. Sad, because some of those diseases, they couldn't even put a name on. But because they were infected, they were not allowed to go home. They had two choices. They could stay there and hope for a cure, or volunteer for a suicide mission and go back to Vietnam and become a hero. So this has not been addressed. When you incite lust, you're going to run into these STDs. And they don't want to talk about it. But I guarantee you, what I learned as a safety officer, just about hepatitis. And hepatitis can only be transferred by fecal to oral transfer. And we had a professor who did her doctoral thesis on it. And she shocked me with the second largest group were homosexuals because of their sexual practices and fecal to oral transfer. And that's just one. I could go on. So this has not been addressed. And these are young people. They do not have the wherewithal to control those lusts.
Thank you. I think the time is up.
All right.
So,
Thank you, ma'am.
Preston Parsons? Preston Parsons?
Good evening. My name is Preston Parsons, and I will be speaking on agenda item number 3. First of all, I would like to thank you, board, for holding position of public office. I know it's not easy. My dad did that for years. I know you're under a lot of strain. So thank you for sitting here and listening to us. And to those in the audience who might disagree with my opinion, seriously, thank you for being here. Even if we disagree on this topic completely, being engaged in civics is far more important than not caring about these issues at all. So if you could give each other a round of applause, I'd appreciate that. I'm a 20-year-old senior at Texas Tech University and a proud graduate of a Texas high school, and I want to share a little bit of my personal story. At 8 years old, I first encountered hardcore pornography, and due to that and a mental strain, I had a failed suicide attempt at 9 years old. Something that hasn't been talked about tonight, which is a much deeper issue, is the fact that Lubbock ISD is the highest suicide rate in the nation, with 27 attempted suicides last year, including a second grader who has tragically lost her life. Pornography led me into a state where I thought that it was okay to take my own life. And sure, 17% of the pornography that is accessed is through books. Fine. 0% is okay, because it leads kids towards that path where they think that kind of action is acceptable. And I think everyone in the audience here agrees that the most important thing that we have in this country are our children, and hopefully in the future, one day, my children. And we have to protect them with all that we have. My question comes down to, and thank you for putting in the policy that you have, other school districts in the area and across the state of Texas have followed this to the letter of the law and have restricted books which are still in your libraries. Why would this board take the chance at a student accessing one of those books and getting suicidal ideation from that pornography that they encounter, which is more real than anyone wants to admit? I dealt with a pornography addiction from the age of 8 to 18 years old until I became a Christian and gave my life to Jesus Christ. This is a serious issue, and I understand the historical issue that's been brought up, that the book banners have never been on the right side of history. Sure, but I promise you that those who have gone against the Word of God and are okay with children accessing these kinds of materials, or those who have authored these types of books, will never be on the right side of history. And that is far more important. Thank you for taking the time to hear from us tonight, and I wish everyone safe travels home. Thank you.
Rachel Hall Mendez. Rachel Hall Mendez.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Hall Mendez, and I will be speaking on agenda item number 3. Thank you to the Board of Trustees for the time, care, and commitment you give to our district, our students, and our community. I also want to thank the members of the SLAC for the time and seriousness they have given to the responsibility placed before them. My 3 minutes is mainly dedicated to addressing misinformation that has been shared in our community recently and unfortunately here tonight. I have read Senate Bill 13 in its entirety, including the relevant subsections, and compared its requirements with the process Lubbock ISD has made available to the public. What I found was not a district attempting to work around the law. I found a formal, transparent process, and we have been following it. Senate Bill 13 gives parents meaningful rights regarding their own child's library access. Parents can review the library catalog, see what their child checks out, and restrict specific materials for their child. It also establishes a formal process for challenging library materials and provides a role for the SLAC and the board while reviewing those challenges. That is why I'm concerned when claims about LISD's process are presented to this community without the same level of care given to the actual language of the law. Anyone who chooses to speak publicly on this issue has a responsibility to fact-check those claims before presenting them as fact. Misinformation does not help parents. It does not help the board, and it certainly does not help our students. To parents who have concerns, I encourage you to do your own research. Read the law. Read the district's published procedures. If you believe a book violates the standards, use the challenge process the law provides. And please, talk to your child's librarian. Ask questions. Look at the book in its full context rather than relying solely on isolated passages or social media posts designed to provoke outrage. Parental involvement matters deeply, so do accuracy, due process, and thoughtful review. We do not have to choose between respecting parents and respecting a lawful process. We can do both. We should also be careful not to allow organized groups, whether intentionally or through a failure to fully understand the law, to misinform our community about what the law requires or how our district is carrying it out. I ask this board to continue supporting the established process, the members of the SLAC, and the educators and librarians charged with carrying it out. Decisions about what our students can access deserve careful consideration, evidence, and context, not simply whoever can generate the most outrage. Thank you.
This is Sharma Moriarty.
Up here, is that better? Okay, hello, my name is Sharma Moriarty. I've never spoken at anything like this, so I'm kind of like that 80-year-old lady. I'm a little bit nervous. But the reason I came today, I'm also a graduate of Monterey High School, class in 1987. I came out today because I have grandchildren who are in elementary, who are in junior high, and who are in high school. And I don't know specifically about all of these books, but just some of the language that I have heard read here today is disturbing. It's disgusting. I think that my beliefs don't have to be your beliefs, but I believe that God has put you in this position, and that you've gotten here because you're suited for this position, right? And because of that, I hope that you can listen, not to all of the hype about everything, not to the anger, not to the us and them rhetoric, but just to listen to the common sense of this book or that book are not appropriate for children to read, right? I'm not saying every single book that y'all are reviewing necessarily needs to be taken out, but I'm saying just please take into consideration the ones that have been brought up that are kind of jarring, honestly. You know, I understand keeping books in place that are for some kind of educational or even just entertainment purposes. But putting thoughts into the minds of young children about rape and, you know, body dysmorphic disorder and self-harm and all of these things, it's just disturbing as a grandparent to think of my grandchildren reading these things in school. My grandson is on the autism spectrum, and for him, he sometimes can fixate on things. And I don't know if all autistic children are like that, but my grandson is. And the book that I was given to look at is called Lighter Than My Shadow. And when I looked at it, this book it has a lot of pictures in it, and it is emotionally and visually intense. I do have a pure mind, but I don't expect that everyone does, and that's okay. But this book talks about sexual abuse and exploitation of a young girl who was, first of all, dealing with an eating disorder, right? And she went to a therapist, and the therapist began to sexually molest her. And they put pictures in the book of the things that he was doing to her, right? And you can see there's a hand, and it's pushing the girl's pushing the man's hand back, and yet it's still in there. There's pictures in there of this little girl with a grown man, and he's telling her, trust me, and he's laying on top of her, and he's getting closer and closer, and then when you get to the last picture, she has this scared look on her face, like something's happened. These are books that I don't want my grandchildren to see in school. This one is called Lighter Than My Shadow, and I'm asking you to please take it out.
Thank you. The next person is Stephen Lara, and we're down to the last 4 speakers just for purposes of time. Stephen Lara.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Lara. I'm a Turning Point USA leader here in Lubbock, Texas. And I guess I'm the boy that cried wolf. We believe Lubbock ISD is failing to follow the laws and standards established to protect Texas children. And we're not alone in saying that. State Board of Education member and Vice Chair of the Committee on School Initiatives, Dr. Julie Pickren, has entrusted us with a statement to deliver to you tonight on her behalf. And we have copies for you in a packet that we put together for you. And I'd like to read that statement now. Dr. Julie Pickren says, quote, "Let me be absolutely clear. Pornography does not belong in Texas schools, period. As Vice Chair of the Committee on School Initiatives, which oversees K through 12 library standards, I believe our first responsibility is to protect children, not expose them to adult material. The rules we established are applicable to school libraries and classroom libraries. Pornography can have lasting harmful effects on developing minds. Early exposure can contribute to distorted views of sex and relationships, sexual risk-taking, compulsive behaviors, and normalization of sexual explicit material. Children deserve protection from content their developing minds are not equipped to process. Texas law is clear. Texas Penal Code 43.21 defines obscene material based on whether it appeals to a prurient interest in sex, depicts sexual conduct in a patently offensive way, and lacks serious literacy, artistic, political, or scientific value. And Penal Code 43.24 specifically addresses material harmful to minors, including material that is patently offensive according to prevailing adult standards regarding what is suitable for minors. Here is the standard I believe every student, every school board, and every parent should understand. If you cannot stand at a public school board meeting and read the material aloud word for word without the embarrassment or concern that it is sexually explicit, then ask yourself why that material belongs in a child's school library. Texas, as a state, has drawn the line to protect children. Now it is up to you to implement the law and rules passed to protect the innocent children in Lubbock ISD, end quote. That is from our State Board of Education. We also have the support of Dan Patrick, Speaker Dustin Burrows, and many other representatives. What you are doing is breaking the law. You can pass as many little pamphlets as you want, but it doesn't negate the fact that you are breaking the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Susan Cherry. Susan Cherry. Susan Cherry.
Dr. Rollo and school board, thank you so much for allowing us to come and speak. This is part of our freedom of being Americans, and we appreciate it. SB 13 states that harmful material, indecent content, and profane content must be removed from public school libraries. Why in the world would our state pass this law? I think some people wonder that. But I believe it's because they know that children are harmed developmentally, cognitively, emotionally, and psychologically by being exposed to such materials. Cosmo is an organization who helps connect, protect, and support families. Their research shows that age-inappropriate material can distort a youth's view of relationships and intimacy, causing difficulty in forming and maintaining even friendships, not much less sexual relationships. Exposure to adult content can also hinder the development of critical thinking skills in youth, leading them to make impulsive decisions and engage in risky behaviors such as substance experimentation or initiating sexual activity prematurely. Adult content can cloud their judgment, making it difficult for them to understand the difference between healthy and harmful interactions and behaviors. Books with just profane language, maybe not even vulgar language, can promote the habitual use of profanity in the reader. When these words become a regular part of someone's vocabulary, they reinforce negative emotional patterns and reduce their ability to manage stress. Moreover, the habitual use of profanity may lead to cognitive patterns that hinder the development of more adaptive coping strategies, impacting overall mental health and emotional balance. Unlike movies or video games or online streaming, which are subject to parental controls and ratings, books rarely contain warnings. A few do, but rarely do they warn you of inappropriate content or adult content. Most book titles give no indication of anything being unacceptable in the book. So a parent might okay a book that they looked at, or a student might take one off the shelf thinking that the title was intriguing and find out it's totally inappropriate. So why are we waiting for a book to be challenged before it is removed? Can it not be removed before, if it's on the list of books that have already been rated by different organizations saying it's not suitable for children, that it's sexually explicit or full of profanity and vulgar language? Can we take it off the shelf then so a student doesn't go and get it innocently? So that is my question. Can we change the process and make it more efficient and more protective of our students? Thank you.
Okay. Next is Tony Morin. Tony Morin. Tony Morin. No, Martin. Okay. Tate Quinn, and then I'll give Tony one more chance. Tate. Oh.
Testing? Awesome.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Tatum Quinn. My friends call me Tate. I have been in Lubbock for about a decade, and I taught English 1301 and English 1302 at Texas Tech for a number of years. I have a written statement that I would like to read to you. The libraries and materials that our students have access to are carefully curated by librarians, teachers, and parents. trained and experienced members of our community who care earnestly for their happiness, safety, and well-being. And they have adhered to everything that SB 13 asks of them, including making a holistic judgment on whether a paragraph or a page or even a chapter of controversial or lurid material invalidates the educational and cultural values of an entire novel. There is no one in this country who cares about our children more than our community. Many of those here today challenging our ISD are doing so under the identity of Turning Point USA. Turning Point USA is not only not a community fixture, but it isn't even a Texas organization. It is headquartered in Phoenix, Arizona, and headed by people who have never so much as met the Lubbock children they purport to protect. They are outsiders whose primary concern is not the kids in this community, but rather the propagation of their talking points. Although some may see their intrusion into our community as a positive because their beliefs align with those of Turning Point USA, what I would like for everyone to remember is that there is no guarantee that the next political entity that tries to interject itself into our community will be one that you individually agree with. We cannot let the precedent be set that Lubbock, its community, and its families can be strong-armed by outsiders who have no real investment in our community. And before I step down, I would also like to say that I find it incredibly disturbing that someone who I assume is with Turning Point USA got up here and referenced a book that has a rape scene in it, which clearly demonizes the men raping, and announced that it, quote, filled him with lust. That is not the fault of the book. That is a failure of your own morality. Thank you.
One more call for Tony Morin. Tony Morin? No? Okay. All right, with that concludes our community comments. I want to make one statement first. I want to thank our community for being engaged in matters involving our schools. The subject of library books has dominated the time of many community members, volunteers, the SLAC committee, my colleagues on the school board, and our administration in putting together an enormous amount of information to be studied in preparation for the upcoming hearing. Thank you for your time. Whatever the outcome, I pray we can move forward in a positive way, model that for our community, and focus on the education of our students. Thank you. Next, an executive closed session will be held under the provisions of Texas Government Code Chapter 551. It is 7:17 p.m. and we are adjourned to closed session. It is 7:56 and we are, or 7:57, and we're convened from closed session. I'll ask Misty Reber to provide for us an academic presentation.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. I'm Dr. Rollo. I'm so excited to be here with you today. When we talk about our academic updates, we want to take just a second and celebrate that from 2025 to 2026, Lubbock ISD had increased its overall accountability rating. We know this is due to incredible work by our principals, our teachers, by everyone at central office, and everyone included in this process. I do want to honor tonight that we have had a very large audience and a long list of people who have come to speak. And so I would love permission to table this presentation for our next time to share a little bit more about academic progress, but we can't miss an opportunity to celebrate the incredible work that is done and the priority that our teachers are giving to our students each and every day. But with your permission, I would love to table for the next meeting.
I think we've got consensus. We will table that action till the next meeting in light of the time we spent thus far on library books.
Thank you so much.
We're going to give them a clap.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. We're very proud of what they have done.
All right. The next two items on the agenda are appeal hearings. We will begin with the library materials appeal filed by Gay Heron. Ms. Heron, you and your representative may come forward and take your seats in front of the dais. Yes. And I believe Ms. Heron is being represented by Susan Perez.
Yes, I'm waiting for the clock to say 5 minutes.
Oh,
Should
well,
hold.
we've got some more stuff to do first, but I will signal you
Okay.
when it's time. I just wanted to clarify for the
Thank
record that it is not Gay Heron, it is Susan.
She will not be able to be here.
Perez.
Thank you.
Perez. Okay. All right. So this hearing of the Lubbock Independent School District Board of Trustees is convened on Wednesday, August 19th, 2026 at 7:59 p.m. to address the library materials appeal filed by Gay Heron pursuant to Section 33.027 of the Texas Education Code Chapter and Board Policies EFB Legal and EFB Local. Notice of this hearing was provided on a properly posted agenda in accordance with Texas open meeting laws. For the record, there is a quorum of the board present at this proceeding. I am Nancy Sharp, President of the Board of Trustees for Lubbock ISD. The following board members are present: Jason Ratliff, Lala Chavez, Marianne Lawson, James Perrin, John Weddige, and Mitzi Ziegner. For the record, all trustees are present. The Board of Trustees must render an impartial decision in this matter based on the record and the presentation of the parties here tonight. If for any reason there is a board member who feels he or she cannot be unbiased in deciding this matter, you should recuse yourself at this time. Is there anyone who feels they should be excused from this proceeding? Hearing none, let the record reflect that no one has indicated an inability to be impartial in this matter. The purpose of this hearing is to give Ms. Heron, via Mrs. Perez, the opportunity to present her appeal regarding certain library materials within the district, specifically the book entitled Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, authored by Jesse Andrews. The procedural history of this matter is as follows. On Tuesday, November 18th, 2025, the District School Library Advisory Council, the SLAC, met. During this meeting, SLAC unanimously approved a process for weeding out and removing outdated, damaged, duplicated, or unused library materials. A subcommittee was established to develop a recommended process for handling book challenges and reconsideration requests for review at a future SLAC meeting. On Thursday, December 11th, 2025, the District School Library Advisory Council Working Group met. During this meeting, SLAC made decisions regarding the development of a new reconsideration form, and the working group shared its thoughts and recommendations for the review process. The group also discussed recommendations for addressing the backlog of 52 legacy materials, including the need for legal guidance on how challenges submitted before Senate Bill 13 from the 89th legislative session should be handled. On Wednesday, January 21st, 2026, the district SLAC met. During this meeting, SLAC approved procedures for the challenge review process, including a 2-reviewer system, librarian advisory participation, and use of a standardized rubric and Google form for documentation. The committee also discussed revisions to the reconsideration form to require more specific information from challengers while clarifying that curriculum challenges follow a separate process. SLAC reviewed the 52 legacy challenge books and noted that one title had been removed under Senate Bill 13, with 10 additional titles were recommended for weeding due to low circulation. Based on legal guidance, the committee recommended that the legacy challenges proceed under the new procedures without requiring resubmission, using existing reviews when sufficient and conducting additional reviews when needed. The district SLAC met again on Monday, March 9th, 2026. During this meeting, SLAC reviewed the current list of challenged library books and discussed reviewer recommendations, including majority outcomes, books needing additional reviews, and titles that are part of a series. The committee agreed to accept recommendations when a clear majority exists, with the exception that any book recommended for removal that is part of a series will require review of the entire series before a final recommendation is made. Committee members assign themselves books requiring additional review. Approximately 15 titles remained under review. The committee discussed the timeline for final recommendations to the Board of Trustees. On Wednesday, May 13th, 2026, the district SLAC met and discussed each title on the reconsideration list. During that meeting, each SLAC member took titles from the list and read them, and they received input from librarians who also read titles from the list. Additionally, the SLAC members had literary reviews available to them to aid in their decision-making. On Thursday, May 28, 2026, during a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, this board approved the recommendations for each title on the current reconsideration list as approved and submitted by the SLAC. Based on the SLAC's recommendation for the book Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, the board took action to remove the book from all Lubbock ISD middle school libraries and keep it at all Lubbock ISD high school libraries. On or about November 12, 2024, Ms. Heron submitted a reconsideration form for the book Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. On June 1st, 2026, Ms. Heron received the board decision concerning her reconsideration form. On July 1st, 2026, Ms. Heron submitted an appeal form in accordance with Section 33.027 of the Texas Education Code and Lubbock ISD Board Policies EFB Legal and EFB Local, which is the subject of this hearing. On July 15th, 2026, Ms. Heron was provided notice regarding the initial proposed date and time of this hearing. On July 28, 2026, Ms. Heron agreed in writing to modify the date and time of this hearing to take place today, August 19, 2026. In accordance with Section 33.027 of the Texas Education Code, Chapter and Policies and Board Policies EFB Legal and EFB Local, in taking action on this appeal, the board shall consider the following. If applicable, the advice of the district's local SLAC, and whether the library material challenged or appealed is suitable for the subject and grade level for which the library material is intended, including by considering whether the library material adheres to the library standards approved under Education Code 33.021, and reviews, if any, of the library material conducted by academic experts specializing in the subject covered by the library material or in the education of students in the subject and grade level for which the library material is intended. Pardon me. The following are the rules under which this hearing will be conducted. First, Ms. Heron or her representative, Ms. Perez, will have the opportunity to present her appeal. Next, the district superintendent, Dr. Kathy Rollo, will have an opportunity to respond to Ms. Heron's appeal. Each party will have a maximum of 5 minutes to make their presentation and comments, and you may reserve up to 2 minutes for rebuttal. Once the presentations are complete, board members may ask questions of either party. However, The parties may not direct questions to each other, nor to the board or individual board members. Please avoid talking when others are speaking. Please identify yourself when you speak so that the record will be clear. Will Ms. Herron or her representative please state your name for the record?
Susan Pettis.
Will any representative from the district's administration please identify yourself for the record?
Yes, Kathy Rollo.
Ms. Herron or Ms. Paris, you or your representative may now begin your presentation. Would you like to reserve up to 2 minutes for rebuttal?
No.
Okay, so the clock will reflect all 5 minutes of your time now. And with that, you may begin your presentation.
Thank you. I asked Gay Herron before she left for MD Anderson what she thought of me, Earl, and the dying girl being in the school libraries. I'm going to read what she said. I'm totally shocked that it would be there to poison children's minds. It's beyond what anybody would ever think would be in a school library. All I'm really asking is that the worst books, which there are many, be taken out of the school libraries. It's pretty simple. Note, in Texas Scorecard, Aaron Anderson did over 2,000 posts on sexual misconduct. There were 1,600 of them. Cases of adults with minors at school, and that was in 2026, and the year's not over yet. Do you think these graphic, sexually explicit books make that better or worse? This affects adults and students. It was horrible to review these books. Shocking, really. It's just not appropriate in any way, shape, or form. There have been school districts that have seen the filth and taken them out. It's not that hard. It doesn't seem like anybody's getting sued for it either. So we're just appealing to your principles and values in protecting children's minds. That's all. We know y'all have a big job. We're not against you. We are for you. We wanted to help you, and then we started getting the runaround, and it seemed very put-offish. Now we just think we're going to have to educate the grassroots because we know that good people can just not abide by children being subjected to this trash, but this is actually worse than trash. So we're just entreating you to do the right thing here, to do the hard thing. I know it's kind of hard politically and all that stuff, but we expect you to do the right thing for the children. We know they can get these books other places, but that's not the point. The point is that you're elected or hired in some cases to protect the minds of children and teach them the truth. What is true and right, true history, good values, how to be good citizens, patriotic, and not how to be introduced to some of the worst stuff I've ever read. By the way, the books I reviewed, the language was not even the thing in a sense, although it is. It was graphic, sexually explicit, off-the-wall poison for children. And what about parents? Most don't expect their children to have access to these kinds of books at school. Those that say their children should be read anything, well, that's a travesty. They're caring more about their intellectual inclusiveness, or whatever you want to call it, their intellectual, I call it pseudo-intellectual, because true intellectuals would want their children protected from filthy literature. Not everything that's printed, you should know, is appropriate for children. In this case, it's not even appropriate for adults. It's just trash. So I just want to entreat you as elected officials who are responsible to protect children to do your job. You're not following the law. We will continue to prove to this elected school board that you are not following Senate Bill 13. You may be following your interpretation of SB 13, but you're not following SB 13 and Texas law. From Gay Herron. Quotes from the book, page 60. Yeah, Earl, I'm going to eat her pussy. Hey, yeah, do you even know how to eat a pussy? Not really. Pop Gaines never sat you down, son, and showed you that you're going to have to eat pussy? No, but he did teach me how to eat a butthole. God bless that man. Yep. I would teach you some pussy eating techniques, but it's a little complicated. Son, I don't have time for that. I got like 20 pussies over there I need to eat. Is that right? I'm on pussy deadline. You've got 20 vaginas all lined up in a row? Ah, what the hell? No one's talking about vaginas, Greg. What's wrong with you? Man, that's nasty. I'm talking about pussy. I got a little honey mustard over here, a little Heinz 7 to eat with a whole lot of pussy. Page 73. I suggest you habitually masturbate all over the pillows. Page 74. Yo, Pop Gaines drove me to Whole Foods. If you need some funky Vlasic pickle relish for that pussy, just holler. Page 75. All you need to know is it's about a combination of food and sex, like oral sex. What is oral combining food and oral sex? Yeah, fuck, shit, that's enough. That's all I'm going to read. All right, I'm submitting my quotes with testimony, and our legal counsel wants the letter emailed to each of you to be a part of the official records for this hearing. Thank you.
So, ma'am, my name is Ron Garcia. We just want to let you know for the record that the district is in receipt of that information, and the receipt of it is noted. Now, the district's local record on this matter, with the exception of the recording or transcription of this hearing, is closed, but the receipt of that information that the district received late last night is noted.
Noted. Thank you. And do you want these handouts now, or?
You can just leave them on the desk, we'll be fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, with that, Dr. Rollo, will you reserve any time for rebuttal?
I do not.
Okay, then you may now present.
Thank you, Mrs. President, and thank you, President Sharp. Thank you, President Sharp, for walking us through the facts on how we got to this point today. Before I share information regarding today's first appeal, I want to take a moment to share 3 things about Lubbock ISD's library processes, and these will be guided around 3 phrases or words. First, parental rights, transparency, and legality. Let's start with parental rights. Right now, every parent may access our library catalogs. Parents and guardians have the ability to restrict their own children from checking out a book, set of books, or an author at any time. Furthermore, parents receive notification anytime their child checks out a book from the library with the title and author of that book. Every member of the School Library Advisory Council, or the SLAC, is a parent in Lubbock ISD at the time that they were appointed for that committee. Transparency. The School Library Advisory Council made a recommendation to our Board of Trustees on library acquisitions or purchases last spring. Before the board took action on that recommendation, the list was posted for more than 30 days on our website. There's a place next to the list for citizens to make comments they want the board to consider. All SLAC meetings are open public meetings, and they are recorded and on our website. Legality. Our library processes meet the requirements of Senate Bill 13, exactly as it is outlined in the law, with parental rights and transparency at the forefront. Prior to SB 13, Lubbock ISD had just over 130 reconsideration forms filled out by citizens. We were in the process of processing some of those books using our previous process, and then the law changed. You will hear me refer to legacy books. That means that the books were submitted for reconsideration prior to SB 13. Now on to me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. As you heard President Sharp say, the board previously accepted the SLAC's recommendation to keep the book in high schools only. This book is a legacy book, which means it was submitted for reconsideration prior to SB 13 and the SLAC, and had already been processed by a previous committee. That committee was made up of 2 employees, 1 community member, 1 librarian, and 1 parent. Please refer to tab 1 of your binder, of which Ms. Perez also has. This is a copy of the original reconsideration form submitted by Mrs. Herron. When you look at her form, you will see it asks, should this stay in circulation in the middle school library? She said no. The book should stay in curriculum in the high school library. She put a question mark. The book should not stay in circulation at any of Lubbock ISD libraries. She put a question mark. On the next page, any additional comments, and she said, as the author even says at the beginning of this book, he didn't really have an idea how to write this stupid book. I suppose a junior or senior high boy might think the story is funny, but to me, it was pointless. Please look at tab 2 of your binder. You can see that all 5 of the previous committee members in this legacy book voted to remove the book from middle school. 2 voted to remove the book from high school, and 3 voted to keep it in high school. On the second page, you can see the circulation numbers. The book was acquired in 2012, 14 years ago, for 3 high school campuses, and it has been checked out a total of 41 times in 14 years. Tabs 3 through 9 of your binder are posted agendas and minutes of the SLAC meetings and our board meetings where SLAC recommendations were accepted by the Board of Trustees. Tab 10 is a total circulation numbers by campus for the last school year. Tab 11 is very important. This is FEB, legal and local. This is our policy based on current law that outlines library materials. I call your attention to the definitions listed on the first and second page, particularly the definition of obscene and patently offensive. I also call your attention to the library collection development standards, particularly numbers 3 and 4. I am not going to read all of this EFB policy to you, but I encourage citizens who have concerns to do so. Our policy is on our website and available to anyone. This policy is based on current law, and parental rights and transparency are a dominant theme. Our processes, again, are based on law. The last tab, which you have seen before, is Senate Bill 13 from the 89th legislative session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rollo. The board may now ask clarifying, factual questions within the scope of the appeal. Any response by the presenter should be brief. This is not intended to extend the presentation time of either presenter. Does any board member have a question?
Dr. Rollo, did I understand the list of books under review for purchase were posted for 30 days?
A minimum of 30 days. It was actually a little bit longer than that.
During that time, did the district receive any comments or feedback
We did not.
of the 30 days?
We did not receive any comments from the public.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Got a question on this for us. Did Ms. Heron tell you, or did you as her representative, did you all both read the book?
I wasn't able to find the book to be able to read the whole book. I don't know for sure if she did or not. Could I make one other statement? I didn't ever find the 30 days that was posted.
It was on our Slack website.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Rollo, you said this was a legacy book, and so that was the process for books before Senate Bill 13.
Yes.
Can you clarify exactly what that was again?
Sure. So the previous process for this particular book, it had 5 people who served on the committee. Again, 2 employees, 1 community member, 1 librarian, 1 parent. And all 5 agreed that the book did not need to be in middle school. But they were split on whether or not it should be in high school. So 2 voted to remove it from high school and 3 voted to keep it in high school.
Okay. But I heard you to say only 1 of the 5 members of that review was a parent.
Yes, only 1 was a parent.
Okay. Thank you.
But no one on the Slack committee read this book.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Okay, now that the board has heard this appeal, the board may deliberate this matter, which means we have opportunity to discuss with the public to hear. Any discussion?
President Sharp, I believe I heard you say in your comments something to the effect of a clear majority needing to be established. Is that what I understood?
Yes, in the minutes
Mhm.
of the SLAC meeting, that is what it's.
Of their establishing their policies. Dr. Rollo, is that an accurate portrayal of that?
Yes, when you go back to the Slack minutes, you'll see that they wanted a clear majority of the previous process before they carried forward with that recommendation.
Just for clarification, the 5 folks were the original folks.
Yes, the original. Yes, that's why this is a legacy book.
And the second group is the one that did not read it.
That's correct.
Because
The Slack committee did not read the book.
what was the reason for them not reading the book?
Because the book had already been processed by the previous committee, and so they voted, if there was a clear majority, to go ahead with whatever they had recommended.
back to my question a moment ago, just reading through the EFB legal instructional resources, library materials, through the actual laws that we're following, part of it. Harmful material means material whose dominant theme taken as a whole, and then it goes on to state or define, what is harmful material. Dominant theme to me would indicate that the entire book needed to be read to understand what a dominant theme was. So I think take that for what it's worth. But when people aren't reading these books and these comments are taken out of context, I think it makes it difficult to make a judgment on the entire book.
Can I answer that?
I think this is the opportunity.
That's not really a question.
Okay, well, you were looking at me.
Yeah.
so- Okay.
Yeah. Trustee deliberation, any other comments on this or thoughts? I do have some thought about the fact there was only one parent involved in that legacy process. So that sounds out a little bit to me. Okay. Well, if there's no further deliberation, I will entertain a motion regarding the disposition of this appeal hearing.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I move that the board deny Ms. Herron's library materials appeal and uphold the board's previous approval of the book Me and Earl and the Dying Girl as recommended by the district SLAC, so that the book remains removed from all Lubbock ISD middle school libraries and kept in all Lubbock ISD high school libraries.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and by Mr. Wedge and a second by Mr. Perrin. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand, please. All opposed? Okay, I did not see hands, so we have all in favor? 5-2? Okay, all right. Then the motion carries 5-2. All right, this hearing is concluded. We will now move into our second hearing. Well, I think we've already taken the vote. Okay, yeah, I think we've already taken the vote. Okay. All right, now we will move to the appeal, the Powell appeal hearing. Thank you for bearing with me. This hearing of the Lubbock Independent School District Board of Trustees is convened on Wednesday, August 19th, 2026 at 8:25 p.m. to address the library materials appeal filed by Jan Powell pursuant to Section 33.027 of the Texas Education Code Chapter and Board Policies, EFB Legal and EFB Local. Notice of this hearing was provided on a properly posted agenda in accordance with Texas open meeting laws. For the record, there is a quorum of the board present at this proceeding. I am Nancy Sharp, President of the Board of Trustees for Lubbock ISD. The following board members are present: Jason Ratliff, Lala Chavez, Marianne Lawson, James Perrin, John Wedge, and Mitzi Ziegner. For the record, all trustees are present. The Board of Trustees must render an impartial decision in this matter based on the record and the presentation of the parties here tonight. If for any reason there is a board member who feels he or she cannot be unbiased in deciding this matter, you should recuse yourself at this time. Is there anyone who feels they should be excused from this proceeding? Seeing none, let the record reflect that no one has indicated an inability to be impartial in this matter. The purpose of this hearing is to give Ms. Powell the opportunity to present her appeal regarding certain library materials within the district. Specifically, such library materials include the following 7 books: Heroine, authored by Mindy McGinnis; Kingdom of Ash, authored by Sarah J. Moss; Lady Midnight, authored by Cassandra Clare; Lighter Than My Shadow, authored by Katie Green; Lord of Shadows, authored by Cassandra Clare; The Female of the Species, authored by Mindy McGinnis, and The Lovely Bones, authored by Alice Sebold. The procedural history of this matter is as follows. On Tuesday, November 18th, 2025, the District School Library Advisory Council, or SLAC, met. During this meeting, SLAC unanimously approved a process for weeding out and removing outdated, damaged, duplicated, or unused library materials. A subcommittee was established to develop a recommended process for handling book challenges and reconsideration requests for review at a future SLAC meeting. On Thursday, December 11th, 2025, the District School Library Advisory Council Working Group met. During this meeting, SLAC made decisions regarding the development of a new reconsideration form, and the working group shared its thoughts and recommendations for the process review. The group also discussed recommendations for addressing the backlog of 52 legacy materials, including the need for legal guidance on how challenges submitted before Senate Bill 13 from the 89th legislative session should be handled. On Wednesday, January 21st, 2026, the district SLAC met. During this meeting, SLAC approved procedures for the challenge review process, including a 2-reviewer system, librarian advisory participation, and use of a standardized rubric and Google form for documentation. The committee also discussed revisions to the reconsideration form to require more specific information from challengers, while clarifying that curriculum challenges follow a separate process. SLAC reviewed the 52 legacy challenge books and noted that one title had been removed under Senate Bill 13, while 10 additional titles were recommended for weeding due to low circulation. Based on legal guidance, the committee recommended that the legacy challenges proceed under new procedures without requiring resubmission, using existing reviews when sufficient, and conducting additional reviews when needed. The district SLAC met again on Monday, March 9th, 2026. During this meeting, SLAC reviewed the current list of challenge library books and discussed reviewer recommendations, including majority outcomes, books needing additional reviews, and titles that are part of a series. The committee agreed to accept recommendations when a clear majority exists, with the exception that any book recommended for removal that is part of a series will require review of the entire series before a final recommendation is made. Committee members assigned themselves books requiring additional review. Approximately 15 titles remained under review. The committee discussed the timeline for final recommendations to the Board of Trustees. On Wednesday, May 13th, 2026, the district SLAC met and discussed each title on the reconsideration list. During the meeting, each SLAC member took titles from the list and read them, and they received input from librarians who also read titles from the list. Additionally, the SLAC members had literary reviews available to them to aid in their decision-making. On Thursday, May 28, 2026, during a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, this board approved the recommendations for each title on the current reconsideration list as approved and submitted by SLAC. Based on SLAC's recommendation for the book Heroine, the board took action to remove the book from all Lubbock ISD middle school libraries and to keep it at all Lubbock ISD high school libraries. Based on SLAC's recommendation for the book Kingdom of Ash, the board took action to keep the book in all Lubbock ISD middle school libraries and to keep the book in all Lubbock ISD high school libraries. Based on the SLAC's recommendation for the book Lady Midnight, the board took action to keep the book in all Lubbock ISD middle school libraries and to keep the book in all Lubbock ISD high school libraries. Based on the SLAC's recommendation for the book Lighter Than My Shadow, the board took action to remove the book from all Lubbock ISD middle school libraries and to keep it at all Lubbock ISD high school libraries. Based on the SLAC's recommendation for the book Lord of Shadows, the book took action to remove the book from all Lubbock ISD middle school libraries and to keep it at all Lubbock ISD high school libraries. Based on the SLAC's recommendation for the book The Female of the Species, the board took action to keep the book in all Lubbock ISD middle school libraries and to keep the book in all Lubbock ISD high school libraries. And based on the SLAC's recommendation for the book The Lovely Bones, the board took action to remove the book from all Lubbock ISD middle school libraries and to keep it at all Lubbock ISD high school libraries. On March 12, 2024, Ms. Powell submitted a reconsideration form for the books Kingdom of Ash, Lady Midnight, and Lighter Than My Shadow. On March 14th, Ms. Powell submitted a reconsideration form for the books The Lovely Bones. On March 15th, Ms. Powell submitted a reconsideration form for the book The Female of the Species. On March 24th, 2024, Ms. Powell submitted a reconsideration form for the book Lord of Shadows. On March 25th, Ms. Powell submitted a reconsideration form for the book Heroine. On June 1st, 2026, Ms. Powell received the board decision concerning her reconsideration form. On July 8th, 2026, Ms. Powell submitted an appeal form in accordance with Section 33.027 of the Texas Education Code and Lubbock ISD Board Policies EFB Legal and EFB Local, which is the subject of this hearing. On July 15th, 2026, Ms. Powell was provided notice regarding the initial proposed date and time of this hearing. On July 28th, 2026, Ms. Powell agreed in writing to modify the date and time of this hearing to take place today, August 19th, 2026. In accordance with Section 33.027 of the Texas Education Code and Board Policies EFB Legal and EFB Local, in taking action on this appeal, the Board shall consider the following. If applicable, the advice of the district's local SLAC, whether the book library material challenged or appealed is suitable for the subject and grade level for which the library material is intended, including by considering whether the library material adheres to the library standards approved under Education Code 33.021 and reviews, if any, of the library material conducted by academic experts specializing in the subject covered by the library material or the education of students in the subject and grade level for which the library material is intended. The following are the rules under which this hearing will be conducted. First, Ms. Powell or her representative will have the opportunity to present her appeal. Next, the district superintendent, Dr. Kathy Rollo, will have an opportunity to respond to Ms. Powell's appeal. Each party will have a maximum of 5 minutes to make their presentations and comments, and you may reserve up to 2 minutes for rebuttal. Once the presentations are complete, board members may ask questions of either party. However, the parties may not direct questions to each other, nor to the board or individual board members. Please avoid talking when others are speaking. Please identify yourself when you speak so that the record will be clear. Will Ms. Powell or her representative please state your name for the record?
Susan Pettis.
And will any representatives from the district's administration please identify yourselves for the record?
Yes, Kathy Rollo.
Ms. Powell or your representative, Ms. Perez, may now begin your presentation. Would you like to reserve 2 minutes for rebuttal?
No, thank you.
Okay. You may begin your presentation.
Trustees, several months ago, you accepted the SLAC's recommendation to reject our challenges and keep these 7 books. We appealed, and tonight they are back before you. But before you cast another vote on these books, there is something every member of this board needs to understand. The process you relied on the first time did not provide the review or the protections required by SB 13. We went back and watched the meeting that produced these recommendations, and what we found should deeply concern every one of you, because this process that the board has been relying on to protect students entrusted in your care is deeply flawed. First, we watched members of the SLAC defend books because they are important, because they are fantasy. The subject was already covered in the curriculum, or students needed to read more controversial literature. One committee member argued that the middle school students needed a little more challenge. One book was defended because in 1,000 pages, there were only 1 or 2 sexual scenes. SB 13 doesn't say library material can be profane or indecent if someone thinks the book is important, challenging, or has educational value. Those exceptions aren't in the law, and we never heard them discuss or even mention the questions Texas law actually requires the district to consider. Is the material obscene? Is it harmful to minors? Does it contain profane content? Is any of it considered indecent? Those are legal standards that are required. I only have 5 minutes tonight, so I cannot walk you through the challenge content in all 7 books. I am providing each of you with a packet with excerpts from the books to identify the specific material I contend is profane or indecent, standards that the SLAC never considered. And here's why I'm focusing your attention on these 4 standards. Obscene and harmful material is defined by the extremely high threshold of the Miller test. These are legal terms for hardcore pornography and as a whole analysis, which is required before content can be defined as obscene or harmful. Profane and indecent are different. They are separate prohibitions with no as a whole requirement. So a book does not have to be hardcore porn to violate Texas school library law. A 1,000-page book that contains only 1 or 2 sexual scenes may not be obscene, but that does not answer whether or not the scenes are profane or indecent. All of these materials must be all of these standards must be applied. They are to exist for one reason, to protect the children. The second thing we discovered about the flawed process is that only one SLAC member read each challenged book. The others, mostly who hadn't read it, decided whether they agreed with the member's assessment, according to the video. Did you know that the recommendations you received were based on just one person's opinion of each book? Worse, these 7 legacy books were never individually reviewed and discussed under SB 13 standards. 5 of them, the SLAC passed a motion with no discussion at all. If there was consensus among the SLAC member, the librarian, and previous reviewers, even those previous reviews occurred before Senate Bill 13 under different standards and without any parent involvement, for the most part. That's not meaningful review. The SLAC president said it best immediately after the motion passed when he said, "It's going to make us much more efficient." Efficient, when the purpose of this process is to determine whether materials placed in front of children violate Texas law, efficiency should not be the goal. Protecting students should be. Section 33.025E requires the SLAC to determine whether materials comply with the collection standards in Section 33.021. This is not what happened for the books that have gone before the SLAC. That should concern every parent in this district. It should deeply concern every member of this board, because tonight the responsibility is entirely yours. This is our appeal of your previous decision of accepting the SLAC's recommendation. But there is no SLAC recommendation before you tonight. This is all you. These books have been on appeal for over a month. I hope every one of you has used that time to review them, examine the challenged content, and apply the law yourselves. If you haven't, what are you prepared to base your vote on tonight? The same one-person reviews, the same pre-SB 13 opinions, or have you performed the independent oversight this appeal demands? You are responsible for determining whether these books comply with all Texas law, and most importantly, for protecting the students entrusted in your care. If you rubber stamp your previous decision without independently applying the law, it's all on you. Please add the emailed letter from our legal counsel for the official record for this hearing, and this time I'm going to get up and hand you the handouts since you didn't look at them for the last hearing. Thank you.
Dr. Rollo, you may now present your response. Would you like to reserve up to 2 minutes for rebuttal?
I would not.
Okay. Dr. Rollo, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. So I started my last presentation talking about parental rights, transparency, and legality. So I'm not going to repeat all of that again, but just know that that is embedded in all of our library processes tonight. So now on to the 7 books that are part of this appeal. As you heard President Sharp say earlier, the board previously accepted the SLAC recommendations and voted to move forward with what the SLAC committee had recommended. If you'll refer to tab 1 of your binder, this is a copy of the original reconsideration form submitted by Mrs. Powell. In all cases, she recommended that the books be completely removed from these 7 books. If you will look at tab 2 of your binder, behind this tab you will find all of the data behind each of these 7 books. Heroine by Mindy McGinnis. This is a book that started through the prior process. However, that process was not completed as there were only 2 readers. Both said the book needed to stay in high school, but they disagreed on middle school. Therefore, SLAC read and processed the book. SLAC's recommendation to the board was to keep the book in high school only. This book has been at one high school since 2019 and has been checked out a total of 15 times. Kingdom of the Ash by Sarah Moss. This is also a book that had started in the process. SLAC decided to process all books who were part of a series, and this is one of those. The previous committee had 4 readers, and all 4 wanted to keep it at high school, and 3 wanted to keep it at middle school. SLAC processed the book and recommended that it stay at middle school and high school. The book has been at 6 campuses since 2019 and has been checked out a total of 41 times. Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. This is another book in a series. The previous committee had 3 readers. All wanted to keep the book at high school and 2 wanted to keep it at middle school. SLAC processed the book and recommended that it stay at middle school and high school. The book has been at 5 campuses for as long ago as 2016, 10 years ago, and it has been checked out 52 times total. Lighter Than My Shadow by Katie Green. SLAC recommended not allowing this book at middle school, but to keep it at high school. 1 copy has been at 1 high school since 2019, with a total circulation of 17 times. Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. This is a book in a series. Both the previous committee and SLAC recommend that the book only be in high school. The book has been at 2 high school campuses since 2009, but we have not had any circulation and 1 copy has been lost. So that is one that probably could go through the weeding process. The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis. This is a book that is a legacy book. In other words, it was not read and processed by SLAC. They decided to go by the previous process's recommendation. The previous committee had 3 readers, and 2 wanted to keep it at middle school and high school, and 1 wanted to remove it from middle school. SLAC recommended that it stay in middle school and high school, as that was what the majority of the previous committee wanted. The book had been in 5 high schools since as early as 2017, with a total circulation of 40. Lastly, Lovely Bones by Alice Siebold. This is also a legacy book. The previous committee had 4 readers. All 4 wanted to keep the book in high school, and 3 wanted to remove it from middle school and keep it at high school. SLAC recommended that it stay in high school. The book has been on 3 campuses since as early as 2008, with a total circulation of 198 checkouts. As a reminder, our policy, EFB Legal and Local, is based on current law and can be found in tab 11 with your binder and on our website. I encourage concerned citizens to carefully read this policy. Parental rights and transparency are dominant themes throughout the policy. Thank you so much.
All right. With that, the board may now ask clarifying factual questions within the scope of the appeal. Any response by the presenter should be brief. This is not intended to extend the presentation time of either presenter. Does any board member have a question?
Can I ask you the same question? Did you read these books, or did Ms. Powell?
Under Senate Bill 13, indecent and profane don't require the book to be read in its entirety, and that's what we put in your packet, that we consider these indecent or profane or both.
So, no. Is that the answer to the question?
I can't speak on that for Ms. Powell. I did not read the books in their entirety. It's not required. Just like if I'm watching a movie, I stop it if it's not good.
Got it. Thank you.
Other questions? Any other questions about any of these books? All right.
Can I mention in the packet there is a summary of what the concerns are for each book, for indecent, profane, or whatever.
Ron, do you need to make a similar statement since it's a separate hearing?
Yes, so just going, I'm sorry, just for the record, going back to your statement that you made at the end of your presentation and your handouts, I just want to reiterate for you, for purposes of this hearing, that the district's receipt of The information that was provided to them late last night is noted, but just want to reemphasize that the district's record for this hearing, with the exception of the recording or transcription of this hearing, is complete and closed.
Other questions, clarifying, factual, and I think for the purpose of the public, we've had binders of material for a week, and so we've had time to. Okay. If we have no more questions from the board, we've heard this appeal. We have deliberated this. If there's no need for further deliberation, I'll entertain a motion regarding the disposition of this appeal hearing, beginning with the title heroin.
I move that the board deny Ms. Powell's library materials appeal and uphold the board's previous approval of the book heroin. I want to say heroin, it's heroin. Not the word heroin, but that's a word like that. Okay, as recommended by the district SLAC, so that the book remains removed from all Lubbock ISD middle school libraries and kept in all Lubbock ISD high school libraries.
Okay, a motion has been made by Trustee Chavez. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Ziegner. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All opposed? The motion carries 7-0. Next, do I have a motion regarding the disposition of this appeal hearing for the title Kingdom of Ash?
Yes, I move that the board grant in part Ms. Powell's library materials appeal and reverse in part the board's previous approval of the book Kingdom of Ash as recommended by the district SLAC, so that the book be removed from Lubbock ISD middle school libraries and remain kept in all Lubbock ISD high school libraries. So removed from middle school, kept it.
We have a motion by Trustee Wedeke. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Okay. I think Trustee. Okay. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 7-0. Next, do I have a motion regarding the disposition of this appeal hearing for the title Lady Midnight?
I move that the board grant in part Ms. Powell's library materials appeal and reverse in part the board's previous approval of the book Lady Midnight as recommended by the district's SLAC, so that the book be removed from all Lubbock ISD middle school libraries as promptly as possible, but remain kept in all Lubbock ISD high school libraries.
I have a motion by Trustee Ratliff. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Ziegner. A motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-1. Next, do I have a motion regarding the disposition of this appeal hearing for the title Lighter Than My Shadow?
I move that the board deny Ms. Powell's library materials appeal and uphold the board's previous approval of the book, Lighter Than My Shadow, as recommended by the district's SLAC, so that the book remains removed from all Lubbock ISD middle school libraries and kept in all Lubbock ISD high school libraries.
We have a motion by Trustee Lawson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Perrin. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Next, do I have a motion regarding the disposition of this appeal hearing for the title Lord of Shadows?
I move that the board deny Ms. Powell's library materials appeal and uphold the board's previous approval of the book Lord of Shadows as recommended by the district SLAC, so that the book remains removed from all Lubbock ISD middle school libraries and kept in all Lubbock ISD high school libraries.
There's a motion by Trustee Ziegner. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Chavez. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Next, do I have a motion regarding the disposition of this appeal hearing for the title, The Female of the Species?
I move that the board grant in part Ms. Powell's library materials appeal and reverse in part the board's previous approval of the book, The Female of the Species, as recommended by the district SLAC, so that the book be removed from all Lubbock ISD middle school libraries, but remain in all Lubbock ISD high school libraries.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Weddicke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Lawson. A motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. The motion carries 7-0. Next, do I have a motion regarding the disposition of this appeal hearing for the title, The Lovely Bones? Okay, I'll make the motion. I move that the board deny Ms. Powell's library materials appeal and uphold the board's previous approval of the book, The Lovely Bones, as recommended by the district SLAC, so the book remains removed from all Lubbock ISD middle school libraries and kept in all Lubbock ISD high school libraries. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. Opposed, the same sign. The motion carries 7-0. And with that, this hearing is concluded. It is 8:53 and the meeting is now adjourned. We appreciate your participation.